Hello folks, it's Friday night and it is time for the Weekender once more. And on this week's show, I'm joined by Ben and John to take you through the news from across the past week of tabletop gaming goodness. We've a ton of stuff to check out, from the Wild West to World War II, from sci-fi to primal punk. On top of that, we also have a big prize from store.ontabletop.com for one lucky viewer here on YouTube. If you want to be in with a chance to win Warlord Games' Achtung Panzer, Blood and Steel, then you need to pop a comment below and be a subscriber to the YouTube channel. If you can do the usual social media doofy-doos as well, please do that. It helps us out a lot. Otherwise, sit back and relax, because your weekend starts here. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Weekender. I'm joined by John and Ben.
Hello.
The terrific trio. We're all gone grey today.
We have gone grey.
It's
the drab trio.
50 shades, or three shades of grey.
One of us is going to have to change.
It's not going to be me. Nobody wants to see my big gut on TV. Right. We have got another packed show for you today, full of great stuff, where we get to Degenesis at the end. But before we get there, we've got all the other things to talk about first, which we should probably do, starting with the big news: UKGE next week, which means we won't be here. Oh my God. At least not in this
format.
Box form. Will be more tangible. There may be legs involved. People will see, it's like Challenge Annika. People will see legs going on as we run around the place. Well, Ben's legs, probably mine, will be stuck once again behind a table, but can't have everything. But there's a whole host of stuff we're going to be up to when we're over there.
Yep.
Benjamin.
Yeah, so we'll be running we'll be running the live blog all across the weekend. So if you're interested in finding out what a whole bunch of different companies, both board game and miniatures games and role-playing games and everything else in between, have been working on, we'll be talking to them. There's that amazing press preview that we always go to. We'll be finding out all sorts of sneaky details, as well as talking to people on the show floor. There's also going to be the live stream running from Friday through till Sunday. It's a jam-packed schedule. There's lots of things to talk about. Games being played on stage. We've got amazing guests. So Luke Gygax is going to be there once again. Ian Livingstone's going to be there. That's going to be a fantastic chat, I think, on the Sunday, where we have Luke and Ian sitting down alongside Dom from Chemical 7, talking about role-playing games and the evolution of that over the last however many years, which is going to be amazing. There's also going to be the likes of Catalyst Game Lab going to be there, John. We're going to be talking Battletech. And Paizo going to be there as well, alongside a whole host of different companies too. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be frantic, but it's going to be good. If you've seen any of the shows from the last couple of years, it'll be something similar to that. We're also going to have demo games and all sorts of things being played and things. So if you wanted to participate in some of that, you can come up and play some of the games. I think there's someone Saturday and Sunday maybe to come and take part in. We shall see. On top of that, War Cradle are going to be at the show again this year, and with Whaling Games, obviously. Demoing Armored Clash for the first time. So if you want to come and check it out at the event, you're going to be able to go and do that. The demos are going to be at Stand 2, so that's Hall 2, 702, so go and find that. It's just south, I'm going to say south of us. So if you are at the main stage and then you think, ooh, I want to go and have a demo of Armored Clash, you can just go and check that out. They're also going to be doing a paint and take this year as well. So if you want to dive in and paint up some models and have some fun and then take them away with you, maybe get introduced into the world of miniature wargaming, then that is definitely one to go and check out. Jerry is also showing off
them.
Oh, yeah, no, it's right in front of the entrance.
Yeah. Just walk in the front door and fall onto the first table you see and you're sorted.
Yeah. It's the map is up, as Jerry's showing off there. So if you are interested in finding out what companies are going to be at the event, then make sure to go and check that out. Spread across the two halls once again. So you've got all the traders in both of those, and then hall 3 is open to tournament gaming. That's also where you're going to be able to dive in and take part in sort of open play and dive into the board game library, as well as grab some food and everything as well. So it's going to be an absolutely monolithic weekend of tabletop gaming goodness. And yes, as Jerry has been showing, Moonstone is there once again. So,
oh, were they? Oh, I hadn't noticed.
The screen froze. You see, just
looking at things. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Does it bother you that their logo is hanging out over their box? So yeah.
No, because I'm not Lloyd.
We're used to it since 10th edition 40K anyway. So.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's just how showing the spread of Moonstone as it sort of grows into the aisles and then spreads. Oh yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, it's like Moonstones near a tower. They just slowly encroach on everything else.
Yes.
And then happy days.
But yeah.
They're like this close to shipping the shades.
Oh.
They will not be there to purchase.
Okay.
But they will have the complete range for people to see, and I think the pre-order will be going up very shortly, if not around the same time as UKG. So once the parcels are out the door for me and other people, not me, then if you are interested, you can get your hands on the Fun Dead from Moonstone.
Yeah.
And if you haven't seen them, definitely stop by their stand and have a look. Say hello to Tom.
Amazing.
Give them a hug.
Yeah, they are in that really nice little section at the top of the stairs, which is full of indie creators and artists.
Yeah.
So if you are interested in finding out about lots of smaller sort of miniature games and stuff like that, board games, card games, role-playing games, that is a perfect little space for you to go and invade. And just go and talk to everybody about what they're doing. On that front as well, actually, if you are interested in us covering a particular company or a game, for example, get into the comments down below here or on YouTube or on Tabletop, and just tell us who you'd like us to go and find, so we can go and work out who you want us to talk to. That'd be very cool. So
yeah, because all we ever manage is a percentage.
Yes,
and a small percentage at that. And even though it feels like, oh my God, there's so much going on over 3 days, and we're constantly talking to people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you were to start at one side and do every stand, you'd get maybe a couple of rows done and none of the rest of the hall or the other halls. So
yeah,
we the best laid plans of mice and men, as they say. Mm-hmm. So it's nice for people to go, such and such is coming, and you go, I've never heard of them.
Exactly.
And then we go and visit them and go, oh my God, these are amazing. Why hadn't I heard of them before? So yeah, do the legwork.
I just need someone to go to the Catalyst stand and be like, John's waiting on a pledge here. Get that UK shipping underway, please.
We'll also do like a panning shot in video form, and then we'll send it to you, and then you can send us screen caps of what else you want us to buy, and then we'll bring them back in the van.
If you can do that for Catalyst, Warlord, Battlefront, and Rubicon.
Oh, just a few then.
It's not a big ask. Come on.
Are you selling a kidney? Because sooner or later they're going to ask where you've got all those kidneys from, John. Anyway.
Don't know what you mean.
So yeah,
what you mean? They grew back.
Yeah, sure. It's like livers in that respect. Grow down.
Oh yeah.
But so it'll be fun 3 days. It means we won't have our regular weekender. We won't have our regular XLBS for the cultists, but we will have an absolute boatload of stuff for people to enjoy as and when. So keep your eyes peeled on that. Presumably there'll be a live blog as well.
There will be. Yep.
So it means you can dip in and out, see galleries and bits and pieces as well. Not everything has to be consumed via the medium of video. If you're worried about your data stream on your phone, whatever your kids do, I don't. My phone switched off the other day. I couldn't work it out for a long time. And eventually I realized it's because I'd hit some limit on my data. So it automatically turned off to save me money.
Right.
I didn't tell you to do that phone. Turn it back on. Thank you very much. I spent the guts of several hours screaming at it. Going,
but
why
Jerry, I'm tired.
Sleep with your dead phone. Anyway. Right. Time to press on with the show proper.
Mm-hmm.
And we start as always with our indie of the week. And this week, John has suggested an indie. And I went, and then I looked at it and went, ooh. And then Ben seen the name and went, ooh. And then he seen what was in it and went,
Yeah.
So we're going with Badger 3D, John.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with Badgers, Ben. What a terrible, terrible shame that must be for you, son.
It's the classic bait and switch this week, Ben.
It is. God damn you.
Yes.
Yeah.
However, it is a thing of beauty. I will preface this with, there's a lot of stuff there. However, the lot of stuff comes from other people. We're not going into that. They may become future 3D printing as the shit, or they may be past ones. I know Papskills is in there, but we're focusing solely on what Badger Set do themselves. And there's a reason for that, because it's magnificent. So we'll start with the infantry, John.
Yes.
And you can explain how you found these guys.
Yeah, so I do a lot of random scrolling on Instagram, and Instagram throws ads at you every now and again based on your interest, and of course, tanks. So tanks kept appearing, and I was like, who are these guys? Like Badger 3D? I don't know what this is. Is this another one of those scam ads on Instagram? And I was like, no, actually, let's go have a look at it. So a few months ago, I had a little poke at it and was like, oh yeah, I see what you're doing. Yeah, I like it. And then today I was like, oh, let's talk about it. So these guys do. It's kind of like the Only Games thing of they manufacture and send out the 3D print.
Right.
But the difference here is that the Badger 3D team also design their own stuff, so they have their own range on top of the stuff they support as well. Based in the UK as well, which makes shipping for us semi in and out UK people. I don't know what we are anymore. Makes it a bit easier for us. No.
I had issues last night. I'm still not over them.
No. So what drew my attention once I actually looked at them was the fact that they were doing this 1970s stuff. All the British Army vehicles and this infantry here as well, including stuff that we've kind of touched on before with the RUC and that sort of Troubles era kind of thing with the Land Rovers and the RUC officers and stuff like that. Was it Spectre, or was it someone else?
First Corps have done some based on an older miniatures line. They bought them back, and I think Spectre have done some Cold War-y stuff. But
but what really made me want to talk about them this week was that they don't just offer wargaming; they offer larger scale. So they'll do your standard scales like 135th, 148th, but they also understand that there's wargamers are going to be looking for this stuff, so they do it in the wargaming scales as well, which is great because it allows them to get a detail of miniature, like design a model with so much detail that is going to work for the scale miniature as well as the wargamer.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Because you can see here, like the texture on that guy's flak jacket and everything, like is superb, and at the larger scales they offer it in is going to paint up an absolute treat as a display piece.
See the seam line on the inside of his trousers there as well.
Yeah,
the stitching.
Yeah, and taking that to like wargaming scale and stuff like that, or smaller scale, is going to just give you something really nice to work on. Now their infantry isn't so much aimed to the wargaming stuff because they only do a few select little figures here and there.
People to stand alongside a vehicle.
That's it. The vehicle range that they do is definitely aimed at people that like scale models and wargaming. So
right,
everybody's favorite. I really want these bigulated. Can I make them bigulated? I think it will only let me scrolling.
Okay. Well, we'll have to steal that.
Oh, I'm going to be a sad panda. Maybe a sad pangolin.
See what you did there.
So these are, I mean,
I've seen blue lights. I know these vehicles.
For anybody who didn't grow up watching the footage of the Troubles or grew up in the Troubles, the RUC Land Rovers is ubiquitous to our streets. I mean, you didn't really see many police cars around. If you ever seen the RUC out and about, they were generally in one of these in some lovely slate grey, or these days they do a nice ice cream van version. They do. It's white with like blue and yellow squares on it. I just want to stop them and get a Mr. Whippy.
No, that's what they do to you if you annoy them. They Mr. Whippy now.
But they, but yeah, they're. I mean, the amount of times you would see that with that sort of dark slate grey and then the big confidential telephone number stenciled up the side of it.
Yeah. Oddly, I think I've mentioned it before, but I do have one of those stencils lying in my shed.
Nice.
The actual confidential one.
Wow.
0800 666 999.
Of reasons I can't explain, but we do have one.
He was pulling a job, Italian job style.
Yeah.
You're going to do a blag.
Do you remember the Northern Bank incident?
That might do. There's a Snatch Land Rover. Yeah, because we had a few different types. They started off with the Hotspur, and then they went Simba and then Pangolin. So this is actually our 3 generations. Bam.
So the Hotspur was the Simba was the first.
Hotspur was the first because it was a civilian chassis that they just bolted as much armor onto as they could.
Yeah.
And then the Simba. What was the Simba first? The Tangia came in. It was bespoke, where they were actually building a proper chassis for us.
Yep.
And then the Pangolin is the more modern one.
Yeah,
I'm not sure where the Simba comes in, actually.
I know the Pangolin more often. I know that one. I know the Simba quite well because I've seen a lot of those floating around back in the day. It's always the 2-stage blue light on the front.
Yeah.
The big one and the small one. Like, it just looks. It's just a bird cage.
Yeah.
I remember as a kid in primary school and that getting to see these things because they'd always do the kind of like Hearts and Minds thing. They'd bring them around to schools and let you have a look in them and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I can remember the smell.
Ooh.
It's such a weird, unusual smell in those things. What
the extra caging and the like on it?
We'll probably see it later on, but they do have a gallery of people that have bought their stuff, painted it and posted it, as well as they have commissioned painters that help with their stuff as well. And there's a nice gallery of some of these painted up.
Oh, we'll definitely have a shift into that very shortly. Yeah.
But I thought, it's because I love armored vehicles and these armored Land Rovers are part of my childhood. It's nice to see models out there of them. You don't get to see it that often.
Yeah. It's not, I was going to say, it's not a range or a period, I guess, that you necessarily see done in much detail in sort of, at least in wargaming scale anyway.
No.
Obviously there are reasons behind that, of course, but...
we've touched on it before with the difficulty in
portraying it and stuff.
Something like Spectre would probably work, where it's more narrative and umpire
driven. The Games
than
Master version of that, I think, is a lot better, rather than it just being an out and out versus style experience. I think that allows you to kind of engage in that almost education side of what the war game is, rather than it just being a sort of like who's the better killer kind of thing. So
I mean,
it was funny. There's a scale model group I'm part of, and there's a chap in Dublin was talking about this exact sort of thing, the RUC and Army from the 70s and 80s in Northern Ireland, as an opportunity for scale modelers that's overlooked. Because and it's one of those, it's such a distinctly iconic period, certainly for us, maybe not so much the outside world, but you look at Vietnam or whatever in the 1970s and the iconic photographs that have been taken, and people like Full Metal Miniatures who have made models based on actual photographs taken from the time period. And there's that level of cataloguing for the Troubles is available via a whole host of photographers and publications from our local news and all sorts, which means that you could do a really accurate scale model representation of specific things, but it sort of gets passed by.
Like there's certain features on the British Army vehicles in particular that were only Northern Ireland specific. Like there was always the mesh over the headlights, extra armor on the windows and stuff like that. The flying pig, the one with the big fold out riot barriers and all, it's very unique to Northern Ireland. Yeah, they have a pig in here as well. There's the Saxon.
Wow.
And this was, going back to the Land Rovers, it went a lot of civilian disruption. So we need some armor. And they started off by just putting mesh and boards over a civilian model Land Rover. And then they started getting shot at. And at that point, they went, well, we need the armor, which is then when the Hotspur came in. And then after that, we we need something more bespoke because they started using IEDs and the like, and also petrol bombs became more prevalent. So I think the late model Tangias came with a fire suppression unit in it, where you just slam a big button on the dashboard, it would cut the engine, cut the aircon, and then immediately discharge fire extinguishers through the engine bay and across the window.
Yep.
God.
Some of which are now, they sold off a chunk of the RUC stuff to other British, other British police forces. So there's a ton of them in Wales and stuff now. After the Bradford riots in the 80s, 90s.
Wow.
The Met went, we need some of those.
I think
sure.
Coming at it from the perspective of how because this really was the modern British Army's first real civil unrest kind of thing.
Civil unrest and civilian insurgency,
and seeing how they learned from it and adapted to it and stuff like that, and then the joke of it being they completely forgot about it when they went into Iraq and Afghanistan, and they had to relearn all this stuff again. The weapons were more or less the same, but they had to relearn all the tactics that they had in the 70s and the 80s.
Oh, is that model interior, John?
Yes. It's fun because a lot of the classic military vehicle group in Northern Ireland, there's generally always a Saracen, there's generally always a pig floating around somewhere, and they are all done up to full Northern Ireland spec. And you don't get the Land Rovers because after they were done, I think particularly after they were done with the Simbas and stuff like that, they all went to a scrapyard in Scotland. There's a big graveyard of them in Scotland. I visited that. They weren't allowed to sell it back to us. Funnily enough.
No.
Because they're a little too similar to the modern ones.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Strange that. I'm shocked that they would stop you having fun.
Yeah.
They're so mean. I'm gonna have a look at some of the non-New Ireland stuff.
Yeah. The Challenger 2 TES looks it's one that I actually am very tempted to go and get when I have some money around for it.
Is this more modern, as in our period right now time, or is this still sort of sort of 80s, 90s, or
the Challenger 2, as that picture is with the TES set all on it? That's how they were in Iraq and Afghanistan, or Iraq mostly, with all the bar armor. That's late 2015, 2016 kind of spec for the Challenger 2. That's the version of the tank that pushes it to nearly 80 friggin' tons.
Wow.
It's a heavy old brute of a thing.
It's as fat as my ass.
So this is the kind of stuff you'd want if you were playing something like Spectre and you wanted to have an iconic sort of scenario-based objective with a tank involved or something like that. You can go and pick up something like this. Yeah. Very nice.
But with the amount of skills available to you, you can even see some of the skills are just brilliant. There's plenty of scope to make or adapt certain things to fit with certain game systems. A lot of this stuff is, apart from Challenger 2, a lot of this stuff would be fairly compatible with Team Yankee.
Okay.
So you could get it in the 1/100 scale and use it in Team Yankee if you felt like it. A lot of it is catered for in Team Yankee. But the more individual, unique stuff.
Yeah, even sci-fi players. For a long time, I thought about running my Mordian Iron Guard as RUC, and even painted a couple of squads of them. As with little tashes for the sergeants, so you could tell which one was the sergeant.
Oh no!
Which I must go back to because I've still got 60 of the old lead Mordians. But drop out chimeras and the like, and throw them all some pangolins, and barrel them up, put the confidential comlink up the side, and away you go. Just to have a more unique, bespoke.
Be very much a planetary defense force.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I was also thinking
PDF.
These would be pretty good if you were looking at if you wanted to do something post-apocalyptic as well. So if you wanted to throw in kind of forces trying to combat zombie attacks and things, heavily armored Land Rover's probably a good idea. And some of these vehicles, some of the other sort of slightly more powerful vehicles as well would be really good. Slot them in alongside kind of near future soldiers, or just current day soldiers, and the way you go. I think
modern spec ops stuff, and the way you go.
You can have a
They
bit
are
more fun with the
really
kit bashing stuff on them if you wanted to at that point. Then
Beautiful.
just sort of stuff additional bits and pieces on them.
Look at the Saxon.
But
What else? We don't want to spend all day here.
but that's what John wanted.
Should I? Oh, there's a Saracen.
Yeah, I would
I have
love
to open the Saracen.
Yeah, I would
there's
love
the
to get a
tanky with
Saracen.
CCTV.
Yeah, the riot control one.
Yep.
I'm here to gather evidence.
we will watch the crowd.
Well, that's just begging to be knocked off the top.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Good luck, Skipper.
It's
you see if you get close enough to do that, you're getting snatched.
Yeah. It's the one that sits behind 2 rows of other Land Rovers.
Right, yeah.
Telescoping away.
That's one of those CCTV cameras that Jerry will understand, the ones that were always on the top of the towers above RUC stations.
Yep.
So this is one of those, like, I have a mega macro zoom lens on this thing. I can see your face from a mile away.
In some cases, you don't need to, because very occasionally somebody
People
like
just
Jerry
run up to
Kelly
them.
will come, run up and throw themselves on the bonnet.
Yeah.
Don't worry. All of a sudden, I see far more of you than I wanted to.
Our politicians are an interesting sort, aren't they, Jerry? He tried to run me over. You got in the way. You got in the way.
If you don't barrel along the road and jump up there. Oh no, it's trapped. But I have its little cage.
Oh, I like that it comes in its own little... It prints in its own little box. That's kind of cute.
I suppose that's for transportation.
I don't know how these arrive. That's the thing.
I don't know.
Badger, send us.
I'll
give you a
we
list.
want to find out. We should have a look at the gallery because there are multiple pages of this. He said going on to another page.
I think it's just the Clan Badger models thing at the top, isn't it? I think, or is it?
Badger Clan and the commission painters, because they show the mission commissions.
Yeah,
they do a bit of World War II stuff as well, which is nice. Again,
always good to see.
Focusing on that sort of some of the more unique and unusual things that you don't really necessarily get kits of sometimes.
Oh, the
crab in
nice
mid-flail, yeah.
These are sweet.
I like to think of that as the Bart and Lisa Simpson flailing their arms at each other tank. If you get in the way.
Oh, the wee Humber's nice.
Yeah.
Get some of that.
Really nice.
That flail. I mean, as a display piece, yes, 100%. But we all know that's not getting across a gaming table intact.
No.
Somebody will at some point push that, and the bottom row of flails will all go.
Do not let Warren touch that. Yes. Very nice.
Gun to the rear.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, right. I will focus. I will focus. Right, so commission painters first or clan?
We'll do commission painters first because they name them and
name and shame them.
Yes. Name them and shame them.
Oh, look.
Sweet
like candy.
It's even got the riot paint on it.
You're not letting me do that. But these ambiguous. Oh, sweet zombie Jesus. That takes me back. Oh, this is more modern. Look at them with their 555-111.
Yeah.
You've got a bit of pink on you. Yeah.
We could tell the riot that they were sent to suppress by the colour of paint on the front of the Land Rover.
Yeah. That was most likely a football riot, that. Because when it wasn't a football riot, the petrol bombs came out.
There we go. There's the 666-999.
That's the more classic look of it, is
that's Jerry's youth right there. That's what that is.
I remember the smell of that paint. We had tins of it at home. We had actual tins of that. That's fire retardant paint as well, which is
okay. Right.
Absolute disgusting smell off of it. I think that probably explains a lot of my issues later in life.
I love how he's even added the
Macrolon.
Yeah, Macrolon drilled on the side.
Yep.
Sweet. That is sweet.
There's the flying pig.
There's the pig.
Do you know what I mean? That has the two big anti-riot shields pulled out either side.
That's not a lot of bricks.
What they did, Ben, was that they would run a row of these up, and they'd all open one side of their shields and interlock the vehicles together. So that the British Army had carte blanche with their riot guns to fire out the rubber bullets at people.
Yeah. God.
Which is a whole other thing.
Yeah.
Oh, these are beautiful. Hey! It's off.
Oh, the wheelbarrow. The Felix unit. Felix unit.
These-
Ben is the
these are
bomb disposal unit in Northern
Mhm.
Ireland.
What operating system is it running on?
Linux.
Vista.
We're all going to die.
It's funny because I haven't seen the bomb squad around in a little while. And by a little while, I mean I seen one a few months ago passing through Antrim, so they're still
Yeah, they're
floating
still
around.
here.
But the modern they have these absolute beasts of vehicles now. I'm not sure what the actual vehicle is,
It's a big
compared to the
American thing, I think.
but the bomb squad's logo is like a beagle type dog with a beret on. It's just the cutest logo you'll ever see. As the bomb squad come ripping past you, you're going, yay!
It used to be a cat, though, did it not? Felix.
Yeah. I don't know why, or don't know when they changed, but the recent ones I've seen have all been this brown, beagly looking. I was looking straight down the barrel, like you said, 2 ears, nose forward, and then little beret on. It's cool.
Man's best friend. There we
Yep.
go.
I'm assuming that that's kicking around in here as well. Then
Maybe. I don't know. Possibly.
Really
What else
nice.
we got?
Shows off the kind of thing you can do.
Yeah.
Diorama-based stuff and all sorts of different things from different
So that was
people.
Ken Parson, Lee Powell, going up. Oh,
Striker? CVRT Striker. With a big missile box in the back.
yeah.
Oh, yes, he's on exercise. He's up for. You can tell he's a bad guy with the red tape.
Oh, these are lovely.
Samson. I have to try and remember my CVRT names. Like,
It's nice that they've taken the time to engage with the community of painters that have worked on these and then showcase their stuff. Because I mean, obviously these people sell physical miniatures, but a lot of the stuff you're seeing there is the renders. And so it's nice to actually have a look at what the final product is for this.
Yep.
So that if you are interested in what we've been looking at, you can be like, oh, that's how it's going to come out and stuff. So, yeah. And all the details there, it's superb. Wonderful. So
I would love to get my hands on one of the kits just to have a good look at it. See how much prep work it needs after it's come out. Of the printer,
I suppose. Yeah. Would you get one of the larger ones, or would you go for something sort of wargaming scale? Or
I'd probably get a larger one just for myself.
Mm-hmm.
But I would buy a wargaming scaled one just to show off,
just to get a look. Yeah.
I'm just going to throw this out here, folks. I didn't see a huge amount of blue and red paint being chucked around at the place. It was much cheaper just to use the standard old, white emulsion. You've seen a lot of that. It's a cost-saving exercise. But obviously it contrasts better.
Yeah.
On the blue.
God, I've had a ride in a few pigs around the time, and I've helped Dad work on a couple that were privately owned, and they are just the worst.
Yeah.
They are absolutely awful.
Pig to use.
Pig by name, pig by nature, the drivers called them. The problem is, right, if you want to get these things were going like in civilian unrest with IEDs and stuff like that. None of the internal space, like the armor protection, is bolted to anything.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
So if something goes off underneath that, everything inside the vehicle now suddenly decides it's moving. And there's 1/4-inch armor plate in the footwell of the driver, in the driver's position. And if something went off under the engine, that whole sheet is just going to do that.
Oh, wow.
And just travel through the driver and into whoever's in the back.
Yeah.
There. And the other problem is it's a civilian 1.5 ton truck, the Humber truck, the 1.5 tons. They then slap 3 tons of armor onto it, which makes it near impossible to drive at any kind of speed.
Mm-hmm.
If you take a corner too fast, that thing's on its side. Like it's.
Well, that was one of the reasons they liked the upgrade from the Hotspur to the Tangia, because it was
purpose built.
It was purpose built, power steering, air conditioning, that sort of thing, as opposed to the Hotspur, where it was just a ton of metal bolted wherever they could onto the side of a thing, which made it a sluggish, slow, terrible turning circle piece of crap.
And they had because I remember some of my.
You've got the wrong phone number, mate.
No, that might be the right number for the later type, just before they changed the color to white. I think that could be right. I can't remember. I do know I've talked to a few ex police officers that drove those, and he said that they're fantastic because you've got a big turbocharged V8 engine under the bonnet. It can do 90 miles an hour. And we were like, well, how are you stopping at 90 miles an hour? He says, don't worry. They have racing spec ceramic disc brakes on them. We're like, oh, that's cool. And he's like, yeah, what we have to do is if we think we're going to crash is we push the foot on the brakes and close our eyes. Because what'll happen at 80 miles an hour is the first 20 meters, it'll burn the brakes out and then you crash.
Oh, this is Snatch Land Rover.
Do you remember the whole controversy of them selling those to the public?
Yes.
And then they became drug running vehicles. And the police in England were like, we can't stop these things because they're armored. They're armored and have run flat tires. We can't stop them.
And that's why you can't have one for reenactment.
That's why you can't have nice things anymore.
Yeah.
That is a smashing. I mean, the modern through to World War II, and then obviously the sprinkling of Nirn in there as well. It's a really nice range that they've put together.
It's great stuff.
CET.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They also
prove.
I know I mentioned it before we started filming, but they have a rat, the super, super heavy German Panzer from the end of World War II.
Yes. I should try and find that.
It's on the last page. or it's there.
900. What scale is that? That's 1/100. So that's more or less the same price that I was going to pay for a rat in lead from somebody in Spain a long time ago.
Yep.
And then I looked at myself and I went, why would I? So those turrets at the back, Ben, those would have been the mouse.
Yeah, let me go get the mouse.
Okay.
Let me go grab a mouse.
You've got one,
yeah, there's one in here. Hang on.
So remember how they built like 2 of these for testing, but they never really saw action, and they're the most ridiculous tank ever. So that's a mouse bigger than a King Tiger by a considerable way. And then there's 2 of its turrets as rear gun positions.
Crikey.
In what many people call the world's most ridiculous thing ever.
So it is quite literally a land fortress.
Yeah, that was a land battleship.
Yeah.
Those guns were something outrageous that would have been seen, from space.
So those turrets on the back of that tank, then.
Yeah.
This is 1/100 scale as well.
Yeah, that's a Flames of War mouse.
Crikey.
So that's nice.
Thankfully, physics called and
said you can't do that.
You can't do this. We can build it certainly, and the minute that we take it off, whenever it's on, it will just sink. So until such times that you can, I mean, the best they could hope for is when the tracks spin that the world moved under it.
Yeah,
and it just stayed in place.
Yeah,
nothing else was going to happen.
Dear.
Oh, the rat is cool though. I'm still not buying one, John. I've resisted Forged in Battles rat.
I mean, what
for going on 15 years now.
What size is that at 1/100 though? Is that like 1.5 feet long or something?
Well, you've got the mouse there. So if I bring this up again, and then I go, I would like to see that, please.
The issue is, if you buy this, you'll have to build a table to suit it, just like you did with the submarine pen. So,
it would just be a blank grass table.
Well, yeah, and then
mouse, and I mean, it looks like 3 road wheels on the rat is the length of the mouse. I think that might actually be an E100, but
they're so proud of this one. It comes with a numbered certificate if you buy it.
Yeah. Yep. So what we got? 3, 6, 9, 12. So 4 mouse lengths plus additional for the running wheels and the return at the back.
So it's
say 4 mice long.
That's about 18 inches. I think. About 18 inches.
Might have more dimensions in the description, maybe. I don't know. But
there you go.
There you go.
Oh.
Yeah. Length 48.
48 centimeters long.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. About the width of my screen.
I'm just going to hide that now.
The best thing is we could get it in 1/72 scale as well. We could get it for Lloyd's HO scale trains.
Oh yeah.
That could be his mountain.
Oh, that is the 1/72 scale.
Is it?
One is 48, so you're going to be slightly smaller, so probably about a foot long.
Yeah.
Oh, a
Crikey.
bit smaller
Only
than that for
only
the
12
100.
inches long on 1/100
Yeah.
scale. Like,
Fancy.
Amazing. Yeah.
Badger 3D then.
I would absolutely love to
yeah.
get a couple of their kits and have a play. Definitely.
Do donuts around the place. Set up a wee board. Go. Who was doing the? We looked at somebody doing red brick terrace houses a few weeks ago on an indie. I'm just thinking about setting up streets, have a shore road, go up the limestone. Oh man, I could recreate the Drumcree standoff.
Please
the
don't.
Omer Road. I was living on the Omer Road at the time.
Oh, no.
It was a fucking nightmare.
Yeah.
Anyway, we shall move away from this.
Mhm.
I think it's time for some news.
Coming to you from the center of Northwestern Europe. Covering board games, war games, card games, and all that you love. It's the news.
Okay, Ben, we're going to be kicking things off with a bit of Games Workshop news for Age of Sigmar.
Yeah. So last week, annoyingly, of course, they put out the stream at stupid o'clock at night after we filmed the Weekender. Jeez, God, they have no
They do
sense
this.
of propriety. Anyway, so Warhammer Age of Sigmar is getting a new edition later this summer. Going to be coming probably around kind of late June, early July. Pre-orders probably very soon. But last week was a look inside the big new launch box for the game that I'm very excited about as someone who's been playing Age of Sigmar 3 for the last little while. And so we got a look at a couple of the different armies. So there's both the Stormcast Eternals and the Skaven, as well as the rest of the boxed contents. We shall start with the Stormcast Eternals, who have been giving themselves a little bit of a grimdark overview, perhaps. They are led in this box set by the Lord Vigilant on Griff Stalker, who is their sort of like new take on a kind of classic character that you normally get in these box sets. You often get yourself a big mounted fellow to kick ass and take names in your games.
Yes.
He is then joined by the Lord Veritant, who is an upgrade of an older sculpt. So the Lord Veritant is kind of like a cleanser of the battlefield, effectively, hunting down witches and demons and everything else in between. And the Lord Veritant is back with a very nice new look, with a kind of blindfold and everything on her, looking very cool indeed. Again, with that kind of grim dark style to the miniatures, which I think is quite good to see. Before we dive slightly deeper into the rest of the Stormcast Eternal stuff, I think one of the nice things about what they've done with the Stormcast Eternals here is that they've really gone back to the drawing board and done a sort of like a revamp of them as a whole. It's very much more reminiscent of the old John Blanche artwork that they were doing for Age of Sigmar back when it was initially going to launch. There was this slightly more grimdark feel and overview to them as a force that was more in line with what people had expected from Warhammer Fantasy Battles back in the day. And then obviously it sort of migrated and became that kind of slightly more Sigmarine style look that everyone's more familiar with, the big chunky armor and stuff like that. The way that they've moved things now, I think, is much more in line with the look of kind of that sort of sleeker armor design, more grimdark, using that Thunderstrike armor that was prevalent from 3rd edition, but then sort of adding in a lot more spikes and skulls and everything as well at the same time, which is always good when it comes to Warhammer.
Sure.
The nice thing about the range as well is that it sort of follows the direction of the storyline as well. So the big thing with Age of Sigmar 4 is this idea that the Stormcast Eternals, who continually return to the battlefield over and over and over again through successive deaths, do sort of have a shelf life, as it were. So eventually their souls become so torn and ripped apart that they basically just lose their sense of themselves. And so this sort of like annihilation chamber sort of like is these Stormcast who are on their last legs, as it were. And they are sort of being used to try and combat the most deadly of threats. In this case, with the new launch box, it's obviously the Skaven. So that's the Lord Vigilant and the Lord Veritant, but there's also the Lord Terminus, who is a rather impressive individual. Now, this guy he is effectively a headsman, an executioner, as you might have imagined by the name Terminos. And he is not only there to execute chaos worshippers and everything else in between, but he is also the one who is sent to dispatch Stormcast Eternals who voluntarily give up their life at the end before they become raving storm beings, effectively. So he goes, chops their heads off, and sends them into the
before
beyond.
They go full Blood Angel Death Company.
Before they go,
is that what you're saying?
Yes, before the before the Black Rage
descends. Their armor
descends.
black,
yes,
and putting red crosses on it, people will really start to question where the line separates the two games.
Very true. This is also a good example of sort of where the Stormcast are linked towards this kind of end period of their life, as it were. So alongside the Stormcast Eternals, you also have these Memorians who are their mortal followers, and they anchor the Stormcast into the reality in the mortal realms. So as their minds are fracturing and they're becoming less and less human, the Memorians are literal descendants of their family from before they became Stormcast Eternals. So that's like his grandson, who is like there to be like, hi, Granddad, just to let you know, you are still human. You can still fight. Don't go off on a mad rampage just yet.
It's like the slaves that the Caesars used to have, that they would stand behind them during like a triumphal procession and just go, "Remember that you're immortal."
Exactly.
In their ear, so they don't get
very much
delusions.
it. Yes.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
It's good.
And again, this is one of these really nice things that I think a lot of people see Stormcast Eternals as just fantasy Space Marines, but the actual lore and the way that they've developed it over the course of, I mean, maybe not necessarily the first sort of like 0 edition of the game, but through 2nd, 3rd, and into 4th, they've really enhanced the storyline for the Stormcast Eternals and made them something different. One of the things that I think is really important with the Stormcast, when you're looking at them as a faction that maybe you want to collect, and then you compare it to things like Space Marines. Space Marines are brainwashed killers. They are meant to go out by the Imperium to murder everything in their way. They will conquer planets. They will destroy things. Everything is, against the will of the Emperor, except that kind of thing. Stormcast Eternals are human beings who have then been reforged into, superheroes. So they're like Captain America's almost kind of thing. And so they retain that humanity. And that's one of the big things that a lot of people miss out on, is that they are actually these human individuals who have now been given this new purpose. So it really sort of expands on the lore potential and stuff for them on the tabletop, which is always nice. So yes.
Well, I think that was the big turn off for me with the initial launch of Sigmar, apart from the round bases, which but it was they more or less went, your Stormcast, they're immortal infinite warriors, they'll just keep fighting this perpetually forever. It doesn't matter if they die, they just get put in a new suit of armor and on you go. They removed the humanity, which meant they removed any sort of jeopardy, and therefore made it pointless and bland.
Yeah.
They've added all that back in because clearly somebody went,
maybe we need to develop this law somehow.
Yeah. If nothing you do matters, and nothing matters, casualty wise or anything else, then it's not a war game. It's pointless. It's just a contest to roll dice. So you need to have something, some peril.
I would heartily recommend, if you have Warhammer Plus, watching the Neve Black Talon series. Very good for an explanation of this kind of reforging process and how it all works. Last of the character miniatures for that set for the launch box is the Knight Questor, who again has had a little bit of an upgrade. Knight Questor originally was available as part of Silver Tower, but is now available as a separate miniature with Flaming Brand at the ready, because of course Warhammer. Striding off on some new adventure. It looks a little bit like Conan, who's got himself a nice big suit of armor, which I think is quite fun.
Still Volton's armor.
Yes. Somewhere in the background, Grimgor is headbutting Archeon.
I will say, to be fair though, if anybody's going to steal Volton's armor, it will be Conan.
It will, yes.
They even get.
I'll have that.
Yep. Yoink.
But yeah, all of those characters are then joined by the miniatures that we've been seeing in previews over the last couple of weeks, and we've talked about in various weekenders. We have the Reclusians, who are linked to the likes of the Lord Terminos. So these are your kind of, your sort of Stormcast towards the end of their life, their shelf life, effectively, who have been sent out to go and combat the most deadly of foes again, Skaven. They come with their Memorians. So there's like 2 of them in the set alongside the 3 Reclusians, and they are kind of like tokens that you have in game that the way that it works is that you get sort of benefits for them, but then when you roll ones to save, the Memorian gets their head chopped off.
Gets offed.
Yeah. So just
my
make sure
bloodline ends with you.
Yeah. So you've got the Reclusians there, as you can see. There's also the new Prosecutors. So they're the new winged miniatures that are an upgrade of the original version. They're a lot less fiddly. As someone who owns 6 original Prosecutors, they are a pain in the butt.
They were the ones with the massively spiky.
Oh my god, yes. Yeah. Sunburst
super
wings.
Spiky wings.
Oh,
yeah.
I have snapped so many of them off in my time and then filed new versions of them.
Where these will make much better Elohi for Kings of War.
Yeah, they will, exactly, yes. And they also come with helmeted versions, so if you don't like the faces, you can change those. And then last but not least, there's also going to be a set of Liberators in there as well. So these are your dual weapon wielding and or hammer, shield wearing, troops in your games. You get a decent stack of them in the box as well. Very nice little set of miniatures for the Stormcast Eternals. And as is the launch box / starter box, effectively, they will obviously do the starter boxes later on down the line. If you're coming into the Age of Sigmar for the first time, this is probably the army for you because it will paint up in a doddle. Especially if you do the Hallowed Knight scheme there. Just dry brush your way through, or just spray them metal to begin with. Throw some washes on, and away you go.
Chuck on contrast.
Amazing stuff. Yeah. So that's the Stormcast side of things that they showed off in the box set.
I do like the change of proportions.
Yes,
I like the less chunky, kind of cartoony kind of feel to them.
Yeah, I think it makes them feel a lot more, weird to say, realistic. It gives the proportions a sense of a sense of realism, obviously, which I think is quite good.
Yeah,
and obviously nice for painters and stuff to get something to.
Yeah.
On the Skaven side of things, they have had a proper range refresh and been very updated for the new edition of Warhammer Age of Sigmar. They are folded into the Pantheon of Chaos now, obviously, as they moved into 8th edition and into Age of Sigmar. They are led by the new Claw Lord on Norbeast. Yeah, what a coward. He is a impressive miniature that a lot of people might be familiar with the kind of idea of this, because back in the day, and I say back in the day, Forge World did their Warhammer sort of monstrous sort of collection and lots of different amazing miniatures, and they actually had mounted Skaven on the back of rat beasts and stuff. And so this is a really nice callback to that, which I think is quite good.
They did him as well.
They did it, yes. The Vermin Lords and things. So this is a really nice callback to that. Really good upgrade to the classic Skaven, giving them a really nice feel. Good thing about a lot of the Skaven stuff that we're going to be looking at here is that while a lot of it is obviously designed for Age of Sigmar and that kind of bigger, bombastic look, there's no reason why you can't use pretty much all of this to represent stuff in Warhammer the Old World or Mordheim. So if you want to dive in and use the miniatures for that, go for it. Just change the bases and away you go.
Very good for Mordheim, yeah. Obviously, you can't use the Claw Lord because that mount was not available.
Very true. However, I have heard from some folks in the comments that there are people working to enhance the free PDFs and stuff for Warhammer the Old World. So if you are a
the armies that got shafted are going to get more stuff from fans.
Yeah, so they're going to get stuff from fans, including stuff like this. So you'll find rules to use these in your games, which I think is a really nice bonus.
Yeah. Because generally the only thing you would ever do would be stick a grey seer on the back of a cockatrice and then run him off to stare at a tree man. It's more or less the only time you ever seen a mounted Skaven.
Warhammer. As well as the Claw Lord, there is also possibly one of my favourite miniatures from the set, which is the new Grey Seer. I think that model is just awesome. I love all the callbacks to kind of classic Skaven. So you've got that hook blade with the runes on it, which is very reminiscent of the old fell blade that they used to be able to take. The base is superb with that cracked bell. Again,
very screaming bell.
Yeah, with all the rats pouring out of it. It's just amazing. I mean, we already have a miniature for Thankwall and Bone Ripper, but if we didn't, this would be a great version.
I'm not leaning down to get them because they're still in the box.
I've got my Gotrix and Felix behind me waiting to kill him sometime.
Yeah, you try, Sonny Jimbo.
The Claw Lord and the Grey Seer are then joined by the Warlock Engineer as well. So this is a miniature we've seen before. A little bit of a shame that the Warlock Engineers don't look quite as crackpot as they used to. But hopefully this is just one of many miniatures that they do for the range.
I mean,
so
if I didn't know it was a Warlock Engineer, I would look at it and go, he's heavily armored.
Yeah.
Clearly some form of warlord.
Just a warlord or like a leader for a Jezzail or something like that.
Yeah.
Which is a bit of a shame. I do like, and it's something that someone to point out, that his telescope is kind of angled so that he can hide and use it over the top like a periscope if he wants
a periscope for a trench. Yeah.
So it's properly cowardly.
I think that's the back of a warp lightning cannon.
That's just exploded somewhere nearby.
So that's a screaming bell and warp lightning have both gone away. Wherever they were fighting, it's not working for you, Skaven. Back off.
As someone pointed out about Skaven recently this week, what's quite nice about them is that they fall into two camps for different players. For people who play Skaven, things going wrong is just being Skaven, and they love it.
Yeah.
For people who play against Skaven, things going wrong is they love that as well. So whichever way it works out, it's great for everybody involved when it comes to Skaven. It's always good. Really
Ring
good.
bell explodes. Hilarity.
Everybody runs away.
Everybody explodes.
Those characters are joined by a host of monsters and all sorts of different things. There's the new look rat ogres that have been distinctly upgraded since last time.
Wonder if their stats have been upgraded.
They are actually pretty beefy.
I have a friend's a massive Skaven fan, and we were playing, and he'd go, "What weapon skill are they?" He'd go, probably weapon skill 3 or 4. I'd imagine. He'd go look at it, go, "That's 2." He's going, "All right. Well, what's their strength? Oh, it's this." And they'd look at it, and it'd be lower. It's like, and then I'd be attacking back. And what's their toughness? Well, clearly it's going to be X. And it was like, it's not X. Going, stop looking at their stat line. Every time you look at their stat line, they get worse. Just stop looking at their stat line.
No, they are distinctly more beefy and nasty and just as you expect them to be, which I think is really good in the new edition. Also, there are like clan molder rules alongside them where they can be like the pet projects of the molders. And so you roll a dice and you apply it to them. So it could be like on a 1 or a 2, the experiment goes wrong and they're just worse and they take damage, or they can get more and more powerful depending on like how it goes, which I think is really good. It was pointed out that in actual fact, there were new rat ogres that came out during Island of Blood, but they never went into general release. So the rat ogres that people have had access to have just been the really freaking old plastic ones for a really long time.
That's on other people, because I bought 4 boxes of Island of Blood to make sure I had sufficient rat ogres.
Well, there you go, because you knew what Games Workshop would do.
And if other people didn't do that, then shame on them.
But now, obviously, given a full upgrade, as you can see here, looking very nice indeed. They come in lots of different modular options, although their War Scroll is effectively the same. An interesting thing for Warhammer Age of Sigmar going forward is that they've tried to make it so you can kind of model your models however you like, and then the War Scroll just applies to whatever you have, effectively. So
you don't have to worry so much about WYSIWYG. Then you can
which I think is good.
I much prefer these as a style of rat ogre similar to the old ones, the Island of Blood / the original Rugers. The set they did in between, where they were all heavily armored, looked a bit too clean.
Storm Fiends, you think?
Yes.
Yeah. They still exist.
I'm sure they do.
Won't
be seeing them on my
I prefer these classic rat ogres. I think they're great.
Yeah.
They're superb.
I mean, it's the way to go.
Yeah.
Stuff them full of warpstone and see what happens.
Pretty much. If you're not a Clan Model fan, but you prefer Skyer, then there is also a couple of new contraptions for you to play around with. There is the massively upgraded Rattling Warp Blaster, which has gone up quite a level from the old Rattling gun. It works exactly as you'd expect it to, in that it will probably explode.
Badly, yeah, I was about to say that. There we go.
You can do like the equivalent of a sort of like more DACA for orcs, and you could sort of like really crank it up, and it will probably just explode and kill everything around it. But looks superb. Pushed along by little Skaven slaves at the bottom.
I'm trying to remember. I think the old Rattling cannon, the man portable one, you chose how many dice you were going to roll, but if you rolled doubles, it went
something like that.
Wrong.
I also didn't. It had like a thing where it could spin around and it would just shoot in a random direction.
But when things started misfiring, it was very bad.
You kill more of your own troops than the enemy, which is the Skaven way.
Yeah, that is what we're here for.
Yeah.
To be fair.
So a new model for that, which people had seen a long time ago because it got leaked. But there was also a set of Warplock Jezzails as well. So these are your snipers. They're back and in fashion. Use them for popping hero characters and stuff out of units and using precision to take down your foes, which is really good. And then, oh my days, the Jezzails look great. But the Skaven clan rats have been given a proper upgrade. You get 40 of them in the launch box.
Right.
Yep. Now, immediately, someone will look at that and go, well, this is an assembly-based nightmare. All of these models are just two parts that you just pop together and then stick on the base. And most of them are individuals. Obviously, there's 40, so there's two of each because there's two units,
there's
20.
doubles, yeah.
But that is mad for like a big box set of models for Warhammer Age of Sigmar for a modern game. I think they've really done a good job on these, upgrading the look of them.
I can see why you were looking at more time.
Yes, they're just perfect, aren't they? We just need new Eshin, Gutter Runners and Night Runners, and away you go. So they're still old and monkey looking. Eshin. But yeah, really gorgeous models. Now, obviously, this is the slightly more technical to paint army in the launch box. So if you're doing this with a friend, work out who of you is going to do this. You can get away with a lot by just using contrast paints and loads of speed paints and loads of weathering, probably, with these. They'll look really good. But just be aware that there might be a slightly more fiddly paint job working on these, perhaps.
But I think the speed, express, contrast, whatever you happen to be grabbing, dip, is definitely the way to go with Skaven.
Yes.
Just to make your life so much easier.
Slappy chop them and away you go.
Bite your tongue off. Someday I will look at my Skaven horde.
No, you won't.
And when I do, it'll be some form of contrasty. Well, it won't be contrast because I don't have it, but it will be express or speed paints because I have both of those.
Yeah.
Because all you need to do is once you get the skin tone down, pick a handful of colors for your unit and then just chuck them on like they've done there. Yep. So red, cream, and green. I think that's very similar to my Dogs of War color scheme, so it won't be that.
I think one of the beneficial things of using a speed paint style paint for these as well is that those transitions between their fur and their skin will be so much easier with that because you can kind of wet blend them just off the bat without having to worry too much.
I wouldn't worry at all, mate. No. Not when you've got a unit of 40 of them.
Well, yeah.
People won't be paying that much attention to it. If you do any detail work at all,
do it on the banners.
Do it on that flag.
And away you go.
And the rest of it can be as rough as a badger's backside.
So those two big armies are going to be included as part of the launch box, which is called Skaventide, not Vermintide, because that's a video game.
That's a video game.
And this will come with both of those. You'll get the core rulebook in there, alongside all of the match play stuff that you need to dive in and start playing the game. You'll also get all of the spearhead level stuff as well. So that gives you a good example of everything in the box. Now, Spearhead is their kind of entry-level game mode for playing, a little bit like Combat Patrol was for 10th, although they've put a lot more effort into making this like an easier sort of like easier access point and a better with better replay value at the same time, I think. A lot of the time people talk about that and they say they're really advertising this as a dive in and you can play a game in an hour. I think that's unrealistic. Every time I've seen this played, it's been about 2 hours. 3,
right, okay.
And that kind of thing. The big sell for this is very, very much the two people just grab a Spearhead box and just start playing the game. You do it on a small board, very close, all the objectives done for you, all the cards are really nice. And the most important thing is that unlike Combat Patrol, this game teaches you all of the basics for what you then play in matched play, but in a different format. So you learn about how to use tactics, you learn about objectives and all that kind of thing without it being a separate game mode, and it just flows really nicely into what they've done with match play. It's a lot of stuff has been thrown in there to make it so that it's very beginner friendly as well. So units will respawn or be reinforced and come back to the tabletop and all that kind of thing. You don't use all of the miniatures in the set for playing Spearhead with both of those
That's what
forces.
I was trying to work out.
Yeah. So it's just a select from each set. That gives you an idea of what's used from each side. And And then that just means that you play your kind of spearhead games, probably around kind of like 400, 500 points, realistically thinking about it. And then from that point on, the rest of the models in that set will probably be there to take you up to like 1,000 points and playing bigger games, which I think is really good. But everything you need to play regular Age of Sigmar 4th and Spearhead is included in the box, including all of the General's Handbook stuff, which they're not going to touch for a whole year. So if you're diving in and you're like, I want to chase the meta, you don't have to worry about buying additional books every quarter. Everything is in there from that one set now all the way through till summer 2025. So it is a hefty box. Now, price-wise, a lot of people are thinking like £200, something like that. 160 quid, which I think is pretty damn good for everything you get in there, including all the models and stuff and the books and everything else in between. But yeah, so keep an eye out for that one. Pre-orders up for it very, very soon, no doubt. I'm going to be getting one, if you hadn't guessed already.
Really?
I was going to
surprise me, Benjamin.
I was going to give away the Skaven, and then I saw the models, and then I went, no, mine. Because a friend,
Technically squeaking.
I went to like a wargaming sale recently, and I was like, oh yeah, we could split the box and that kind of thing. And I came away from it thinking, oh, that's going to be good because I'll recoup some of the money from the box set. And then I saw it, and then I was like, nah, screw it, I'm just going to have it all. All mine. Yum, yum.
Well, can we fault him, to be brutally honest?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Technically squeaking, he is correct.
Also, I like that. Very good. Important thing as well, rules will all be free when the edition launches. So if you already have stuff lying around for armies, just go and pick up the Spearhead rules and the free core rules online and just stop having some fun playing the game. If you're somebody who's been disenchanted by Warhammer 40K 10th, please give Age of Sigmar a go if you want to stay within the Warhammer sphere, because it is genuinely a really good game. I've really enjoyed 3rd edition. I sound like a shill, but whatever. I enjoy it. I don't care. So yeah, away you go.
We're not the boss of them.
Yeah.
Right. Taking a step back into time, into history, both historically speaking and pre-order-wise speaking. There was a big campaign launched by Footsore Miniatures Games for Matt Bickley's Vikings. They are on the way, and people who missed out have a chance to get in there and pre-order them themselves. And these are a nice set of sculpts.
Oh yes,
Matt does good things. And once again, he has knocked it out of the park with a set of really beautiful Viking miniatures, 28mm, mostly one-piece sculpts as well, because he has a tendency to do that, but really dynamic sculpts that just lend themselves perfectly to games like Saga, for example. Drink. Which means you've got a whole host of... I'm sticking to the whiskey song. You've got a whole host of really characterful models that are perfect for skirmish games.
Yeah, definitely.
Or if you play mass battle games and you need to rank them up, in most cases, a lot of start games work off big base sizes, 4 miniatures on a base, 6 miniatures on a base, which means because you've got that dynamic look, you've got the space to play, so you don't have to worry about ranking. They come in a whole variety of ways. You can pick them up as individual models, but they've also done sort of war bands, one for each of the commander figures, which you can see here, Odin's Wrath. And within them, there's a range of types of troops. So you've got your herdmen or hearthguard, your Ulfdehar, the bearskin wearing berserkers, shield maidens, bondi, with a variety of weapons, whether it's spears or hand weapons, or even bows for filthy people.
Cowards, you mean?
Cowards. Just the absolute worst people in the world ever. You only get half shots. Take a spear and go forward, for God's sakes. But you can see here just the sheer individuality of the sculpts that Matt has done. Yeah. This fella here coming in, sacks on hand and axe ready, which is always good because then you hook the shield down with the axe and then you cut their face with the dagger. It's good. It's good times. The sets themselves, obviously coming in 4s, are perfect for Saga, which works on either 4s, 8s, or 12s. So just picking up packs will give you a core chunk right off the bat. You will possibly see some replicas or duplications on the occasional miniature in the packs. Look at that big fella there, ready to be Santa Claus. God bless him. Did you watch the Logan video I posted, by the way?
I did.
Okay.
Yes.
For people who are unaware, there's a 10-minute long Wolverine is a Viking fan film.
I will put it in the description.
And you need to go and watch it, because that guy just reminds me of Odin, who lands at the end.
The fight scene is amazing.
Yes. Yes.
The choreography is off the charts.
It's 10 minutes of the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life ever.
Yeah.
Oh, and I include any X's in that. You're not as beautiful as the fight scene in Logan. So we've got Thor, Odin, and Loki's tricksters, which also includes some mounted Vikings.
Again,
which you don't see a huge amount of. But
God damn you.
mounted Vikings, and obviously nobility being mounted, was a big thing in Scandinavia. We just kind of ignore it, because most of the time they were coming off a boat over here, stabbing people up and then going back to the boat. But it means you've got the potential then to run them as pure Vikings, run them as Anglo-Danes if you want, or even in some cases they wouldn't be a million miles away from the old Anglo-Saxons for some of them. But there you can see lovely Tianax, Bondi, +1 to your dice roll when you're attacking Saga. Smashy. That's how it goes. Just go right through them. Just need to add your spears, which, as we all know, should be brass or steel and sharpened to such an extent that you will hurt yourself and
extra
others.
Bloodletting, yes.
Yeah. Yes, 100%. Typical Loki, trekking away. So if you are after them, pre-order page is up and about. And like I say, you can pick them up either as the full deals or as a whole host of them. Viking Priest is particularly lunatic looking, which is nice if you want to throw in a priest or a shaman, which allows you to change the face of a Saga dice for 1 fatigue per turn. Just throwing that out there, folks. Always have a priest with you, because you never know when you're going to need a specific dice. Bring it. It's only 1 point. Wind yourself up. Wind up your opponent. Have some fun. So yeah. Oh, an extensive range from Matt. I think it's one of the most complete ranges I've seen on a launch in a long, long time, which means you have everything you need pretty much right from the get-go, including, as they're listed there, the Valkyries, but Shield Maidens, which are really, really good units. And for Saga as well. For
all of the miniatures to effectively be individuals, I think is stunning.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's not even, I mean, sometimes you'll see individual troops, but they'll be based on a similar dolly. So it will be maybe a change of head and some extra equipment. But a vast majority of these are, by and large, individual dollies as well. Their poses are all slightly different. So it's a really beautiful, extensive range. I currently have 2 Viking armies. I do not need a 3rd Viking army.
What you're saying is that Lloyd needs to buy these, and then you need to take them off him when he eventually doesn't paint them. So sorry, John.
Yeah, that'll work. I've 38 points of Vikings for Saga.
Is maybe too many?
You generally play 6-point games. Oh my God. But I mean, if I was going to push that to maybe 46 points, then this would be the range I'd go with, because they're just too nice. So nice. And at the moment, if you pre-order, you'll get a big chunk of money off them as well, which is always good. And then they'll be available later on down the line from Footsore on general release. But yeah, I'd be fascinated. I mean, obviously, Footsore's really, really made their name by doing Saga-based forces, applicable to even selling Saga warbands on the website, which Odin, Thor, and Loki are there. You can run those right out of the gates for Saga. But with having done Baron's War and stuff like that, I'm assuming it's not going to be long before they actually publish a full-on set for themselves. Well, technically, you could use them with Conquest, I suppose. So you could use it with Hobdy's Baron's War rules if you wanted to, which would be quite a nice one. But yeah, you never know. I think we do. I think we will see it sooner rather than later. Maybe somebody whip Andy again. Write another set of rules. Time will tell. Right. We are going to take a look at some Marvel Crisis Protocol.
So coming in July, we have a couple of new sets for Marvel Crisis Protocol from Atomic Mass Games. The first one of these contains some rather awesome characters that I know a lot of people have been very eager to see, and we're very happy to see as well. So this is Black Panther, the Chosen of Bast, and Namor, the Submariner. The first time I ever heard about Namor was as part of a audiobook for Spider-Man, because those existed back in the day. Which was amazing. But yes, you get two fantastic sculpts for both of those characters. A lot of people really excited to see the slightly more comic accurate version of Black Panther there with T'Challa, rather than it being the one based on the Marvel Cinematic Universe version, or at least a take on that anyway. So you've got the big cloak there, which I think is good. And then, of course, the panther beneath as well, the sort of icon of his people. And then alongside him, you have the little tiny winged feet of Namor coming out of the ocean, looking amazing.
Namor. Namor will have you.
Yes, he will.
And civilization of air breathers as a whole.
And again, based very much on the comic book version of him rather than the MCU version. Looking very resplendent on the top, the crest of that wave with Trident at the ready. I gotta say, these guys, god damn their bodies. Woo, that's a lot of musculature. Crikey. Yep. I hope you like highlighting muscles.
they've all been flipping tires.
Yes, they have, very much so. But yes.
I don't have a six-pack, I've got Party 7. I love Namor.
Sets.
He's one of my favorite Marvel characters because over the years he's been so ambiguous. He flips between villain and hero on a semi-regular basis. Which makes him far more interesting than pure dyed-in-the-wool villain/heroes who are always the same. I think that's something Marvel do really well, especially whenever you've got people like Clint, Hawkeye, occasionally going a bit rogue, and things like that. I always like the duality of the character in the comics, rather than just being, they're always going to be
shades
good.
of grey.
Yeah. Shades of grey is the way to go, and Namor is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah,
and also a double hard son of a gun. So
no doubt that will come through in his rules as well, I would imagine.
Yeah, I also quite like the fact that they've snuck the terrain.
Yes,
set.
that they've been doing recently as
last year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
very good.
It's a beast of a piece.
Black Panther and Namor are also joined by another set that's going to be out in July, covering Shang-Chi and Silver Sable. So if you want to master the 10 rings and turn away from your terrible past and become an awesome hero, and you have options for Shang-Chi there, looking very cool. Nunchucks at the ready. And then if you want to be a good old mercenary, then you have the option of throwing in Silver Sable as well. Occasional ally of the likes of Spider-Man and stuff, throwing her into your games would be very cool. Really nice model, sort of dashing forward through fire. Thing is cool, with a very nice sort of dynamic base for her, and another good set there, as you can see. All of these miniatures in that kind of 40mm scale that you see from Marvel Crisis Protocol, so a little bit larger than life compared to stuff you might normally be playing around with, but that just means more space to sort of test your skills in painting, which I think is good.
It also means better proportions.
Yes.
I approve of the bigger scale, so I don't end up with people with head on them like pumpkins and hands like hams.
Yes,
I think it really lends to it without them being so
it does
thinly sculpted and brittle that you're worried about it. I will say, whoever shot at Silver Sable is going to regret those three misses, which I imagine
she's about to plug
me.
them.
Somebody's about to get a 50 cal right through their head. Turn it into a canoe. But again, really nice figures.
They're really good. I love that since they redid the core box and stuff, there's been this real push for them to kind of reevaluate their sculpting and approach it from a different angle. And I think they've done an amazing job of replicating their characters and sort of doing something new with them, which I think is quite good. As someone who has recently watched all of X-Men 97, I now really, really want to see some alt versions of the original X-Men that they did back when they released that range, because I'd love to see some of the classic costumes and things and done in different ways, like Cyclops and Jean Grey and stuff. I think it'd be really good. Also, X-Men 97, if you haven't watched it, freaking amazing. Such a really well done storyline, and it carries on from the original series exceptionally well. Go and watch that as well. Very good. It also,
I just want to see the puck.
It's also very good because throughout the whole thing, ties in all of those old cartoons that you will have watched. So Iron Man and Hulk and everything, Fantastic Four. And it just makes it all part of this same universe, which is just amazing. So yes, great stuff there.
Sweet. Yeah. Sweet like candy. Right. Leaving Marvel alone and going off to the Old West then.
Even more news, bitches.
Yeah, so Plains Wars then. Paul Hicks, or one of his many clones, we're not sure which one.
Hicks 3.
Yeah, from the Hicks bot. Sculpted a whole Galvy bucket of Indian Wars stuff for Brigade, which was available last year as... Was last year? It wasn't early this. Yeah, last year as a Kickstarter.
Last year,
yeah. Because we looked at it at the time. I backed it, and then something broke in the house that was very expensive. I had to cancel my pledge. And I wept.
No.
I wept. I wept worse than when my dad died. It was terrible. It's the most distressing thing I'd ever seen. But they are now available to pre-order, or actually to order from the Brigade website. So the Plains Wars Indians is a selection of both US cavalry and a variety, actually, of First Nations tribes.
Different tribes, yeah.
So they all had distinctly different outlooks, dress, and style of warfare as well. Added to which, in some cases, some fought with the US against other First Nations. Very similar to Rome in that respect. They would go to an area, find a tribe that didn't like the tribe that they wanted to invade, get them on side, use them for scouting and the like, and then later on they would push into their territory as well. It was, piecemeal destruction, and that's what you've got here with the Plains Wars. So the figures themselves come both mounted and on foot. Pack sizes are different. There's a whole host of characters as well, and as it's Paul Hicks sculpts, they're all absolutely spanking gorgeous.
They really are. It
doesn't matter which clone is working on them. He's never had any major issues with consistency across the cloning for sculpting.
He's never had to drown any of his clones. The magic trick is still working.
Yes, but I mean, you can see there just how good they are. I love Paul's faces as well.
He does really characterful faces.
Yeah, they're really nice stuff.
I mean, we saw his work last week was it last week in the Arnhem Heroes one, or the week before in the Arnhem Heroes one?
Yeah.
And again, the facial details are superb in those.
Yeah. Not just the infantry, cavalry for both sides as well, but also some additional accoutrement is available. So supply wagon, and I quite like the covered ammo wagon. I know it says obviously for Plains Wars there, but all I can think is the outlaw Josie Wales. I imagine there's a Gatling gun in there about to shoot.
Yes.
some Confederates when they line up to take the oath. So yeah, terrific range, and that isn't even a smattering of what's in there. Because if we come in and have a wee look down, you can see you've got everything from the commanders to actual character packs as well. So if you want to have George and Tom Custer, Frederick Benteen, a whole host
Yates and Calhoun, everybody,
a whole host of notables from the Plains Wars. You could do it. So obviously fantastic for doing things like Little Bighorn and things like that, and an extensive range if you want to play a more substantial, bigger than skirmish game. But obviously, if you're playing skirmish games as well, things like Dead Man's Hand, 7th Cav are available as our Plains Indians.
Legends of the Old West as well.
Legends of the Old West is beside me. The Plains Wars has a whole separate book specifically for, which is why I was backing this originally, because I've never done that. So I
maybe you have to pick it up later on down the line then.
I fear my future is going to be an expensive import from the US because of this. But yeah, so if you're interested in some 28mm Paul Hicks sculpted Old West characters, then you can do this thing. And the likes of the stagecoach and wagons and all is very handy for skirmish games as well. So if you want to go a bit Fistful of Lead, which is coming out soon on the channel.
Great for that last stand, as you were saying.
So, yes.
Which was all his fault. He was an idiot.
He very much was. Let's split our cavalry columns into multiple parts, send them off in different directions, and then
don't wait for reinforcements.
Don't wait for reinforcements. Advance. How will that not go badly wrong for everyone? But yeah, so you've got a substantial amount for both. If you want to get into some Western gunfight action, you can do so now.
Very nice.
Yeah,
Very nice.
I think so. He's a good lad, that Paul. Shorter than you would expect.
I was thinking,
what he lacks in height makes up for in sculpting ability.
He's British, so he clearly had to sculpt them here. So he must still have some greens. So what he's got to do is you've got to go and find one of his clones, take him.
The greens will have all
force him to do the molds.
To make the masters. That's the problem. That is the problem right there. Is I don't get the chance to kidnap and force Paul Hicks to sculpt. Is this where we're at now?
That is what we are saying. Yes.
Fair enough.
That's a shame, really, but one must destroy in order to create. Right. Speaking of historics, John, a tiny little nuggety thing.
Just a little nuggety thing where we've been talking about the next edition of Bolt Action coming on its way. And Warlord have been talking about the release schedule for the books because we're getting all new Armies of books, which is fantastic. It's about time, really, because I think some of the original books are still version 1. I don't think
Germany got a second edition, and
Germany got a second.
Anybody else really did?
No, I don't think anyone else got a second because Germany in version 2 was broken.
Yes.
Absolutely horribly broken. They probably still are, but I mean, that's the way it is. Yeah. So they've been talking about bringing these Armies of books out quarterly after the release of the new edition, which is fantastic. They're also talking about new models coming with that as well. And Armies of Germany is leading the way. To some people going, why are you doing this army first, even though it's already in the rule book, but you're doing it first and ignoring all the smaller armies? And it's like, well, Germans have to be first, right?
That is pretty much it. It's I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's probably the most played force in Bolt Action. So, it's the same reason Romans always get a shoe out first in any ancient sort of rule set. It's the one they know people will pick up because they know that the customers are there for it. But hopefully they won't be too slow in getting the other ones out. A quarterly release is fairly beefy. And they haven't said whether or not campaigns are going to drop in between those as well, or if it will just be the army book. So there might be more lists coming quick and fast. Just don't know.
I mean, I'm only hoping, and if anyone from Warlord is watching, I really hope you've dropped Italieri as one of your producers. Really, I really hope this is the era of no more Italieri plastic kits, please. Because they're horrible.
Dream,
they're horrid.
Do you think that's going to happen?
It's probably not. No, it's probably not. Having said that, I mean, the merger with Airfix would open the opportunities, I think, for a good new refresh of a lot of the model range.
I had completely forgot that had happened.
Yeah. So maybe Airfix look at Italieri and go,
Speaking of models from Warlord, though, they've also announced a little set of additional reinforcements and bits and pieces.
Some Gurkhas? If I'm right?
You are correct. There are
I am correct. Okay, yeah.
We're going all Pacific. Not specific, Pacific.
Some weapons teams, some sniper teams, and is that a Piat team in there as well? So I think the snipers and those ghillie suits look amazing.
Yeah. Scottish Gamekeeper ghillie suits, and away you go.
Yep.
That actually comes with Bolt Action order dice. That's different, unusual.
It does.
I like that.
So you can dive in and you've immediately got the dice. You don't have to go hunting the dice out.
The problem is if you really like blue dice and you're suddenly given a brown dice.
Can't have everything. I do like those. It's a nice set of support options. They started doing this with Western Desert, I want to say.
Yeah, where they would expanded it for the Germans and everything as well. So
you would get a box set of support which would contain the various mortars or anti-tank, that sort of thing. And then obviously your Chindits drink. That's one for Mel's fans in the audience. You know who you are. Chindits are great. Nice to see the Pacific stuff again, including your NCOs and little mortar teams.
I will say on the ghillie suit front, I've now watched Fury, John.
Right.
And the bit with the German sniper, I was like, "Ooh, that's an interesting suit. That's cool."
The mesh over the front of the helmet,
yeah.
And then
he didn't need to be that hidden, though.
No, there was cloud and fog and smoke everywhere. Yeah, it was dark and fiery, and but yeah, very cool.
Those Gurkhas.
I need more tanks in my life now, John.
Yeah.
So.
Shocking, absolutely shocking. But yeah, it's nice to see the not just the
Gurkhas as well. Yeah,
the Gurkhas and the Chindits coming out for a different Asian theater rather than just the island hopping Japanese and Americans in the Pacific, but getting into Burma and the like, and doing some of the land battles there with the British and Commonwealth troops. Is really nice. And I do like the fact that they've decided to stick the order die. Depending on what you're getting, 3 specialists, you need 3 dice. 1 unit, you need 1 die.
Yep.
Because those are as hard as bedamned to get your hands on sometimes. So actually just going in there.
Nearly as rare as Saga dice.
Nearly. And just going here, well, here's the dice you need for the unit you've bought, or units.
I will say, if you're not diving into bolt action in the Far East, Too Fat Lardy's recently put out a supplement for Chain of Command, which is all about the Far East with a whole range of different forces for that. So this seems like a perfectly timed release for those Gurkhas to throw them into that as well if you're playing Chain of Command instead. So, yeah. Or Five for Victory.
5 for Victory, yes.
Those are perfectly sized teams, almost. Need one more model in each of those squads.
Well, in some cases, because the squad size starts smaller, so the bigger squads of infantry, you'd be buying a full-size squad and then maybe splitting it down into multiple teams.
Splitting up, oh yeah. Then don't worry about the reinforcements to begin with. I may have been reading the 5 for Victory rules.
Really? Wouldn't have known.
I haven't either.
I don't read rules.
Anyway, speaking of not needing rules, 40K.
Yeah, so along with the along with the Age of Sigmar releases, we got some 40K stuff as well. New Adepta Sororitas, as in Adepta Sororitas.
Pig Latin be damned.
Pig Latin be damned. Yes, one new lady, and this is our Canoness with jump pack. And I've seen a bit of a mixed response to her. Like, some people don't like the pose. A lot of people are starting to sound really sick of the flying base thing that's going on in the GW design department at the minute.
Yeah,
everybody's attached by a toe.
Something.
Yeah, everybody's attached by a toe to a piece of terrain. So I don't mind that. I prefer that over the sticks that are eventually going to break the moment you put them into a carry case.
Totally agree. Yeah.
I don't mind that at all.
It's pros and cons for both.
Yeah. I mean, it does get a little bit of the heroic rock syndrome a little bit now at GW.
I mean, the alternative is you end up with the equivalent of orcs with massive plumes of smoke out of the back of all of them, and then fixing that to the base instead, which is all right-ish for orcs. It's certainly fine because it looks like they're burning high octane fuel at their backside. But for anybody who's slightly higher civilization, it looks too extreme. So no, I don't mind the leaping.
No,
Remember
I don't mind.
Days they were called jump packs anyway. They weren't allowing flight. They allowed you to do a bounding leap, so you were always pushing off or landing. So.
Yeah, well, that makes sense too.
Yeah.
The Canoness looks all right. She's definitely not as ornate as the standard Canoness model, the one on ground, but I think it suits the fact that she has the jump pack on her. She doesn't want to be all weighed down with holy symbols and all that stuff.
The fact that she's going to leave a line of fleur-de-lis across somebody's forehead there was quite good.
That is definitely being very brand aware.
Yeah.
Yes.
By branding people.
Yes.
3 fleur-de-lis across the forehead.
Embossing people.
Yes.
I like this. This is probably my favorite head, the one with the respirator.
The respirator.
Yeah, I noticed a lot of the comments online are they prefer that over the bare face or the hood, because some people are saying that the face sculpt isn't the best that GW have done, but at least you have options. You can hide this if you want. I don't mind the hood.
Yeah, the hood's not bad.
I always go for hoods if I can because I just love hoods. But also it means you don't have to paint as much of the head. So-
You can ignore the hair too if she's redhead.
yeah, very true. Yeah.
But yeah,
Just
overall
spread all
nice
red.
enough. And
That's
along
not-
with this, we've got a new battle force, and we've got a new combat patrol. So the battle force is the new girl with a bunch of flying girls to go with her and a tank, because I mean, really, they should have stuck a flyer in there.
Hunter killers being fired at them. Yep.
Yes, it's true. And along with the battle force, then we've got a new combat patrol as well, which is I'm not sure about the combat patrol.
Plenty of arcoflagellants in there.
There's plenty of arcoflagellants in it for sure. But I think the previous one had a penitent engine in it and a transport.
Had the rhino as well. Yeah,
it had the rhino, but it had a penitent engine, and we didn't have the sacrosans in it. So
Engine that's passed.
what I think they've done this time is because the last one was the models from the launch box, which were a specific set for
all push fit as well. I think
all push fit stuff, more or less. Yeah. So what they've done is they've changed this combat patrol so that it has the multi-part kits in it instead of those, which as a modeler is better. As someone that just wants the game, it's probably a bit more finicky, but it brings it up to what it needs to be. Gets rid of that older kit from the launch box.
Yeah.
So I think
Arcoflagellants, though.
For the Inquisitor aware, one of those arcoflagellants actually is Damien, so it actually has his number, his insignia on it.
Is
so
it?
if you're a fan of old Inquisitor, he's actually in that set. So,
that's nice.
You can just make sure you work out a kill command, and away you go. So.
Yeah. I haven't played Sisters in a long time, but
you haven't played
the
40K in a long
were
time.
filth. All of mine are original Jez leads.
They still are filth.
Okay.
But the arcoflagellants they only made like a couple of models for them towards the tail end, which is a shame because the rules for them were just absolutely beastly. You just hammer them forward and then put your I was going to say redemptionists, but that's not the name. Repentia behind them to keep them alive a bit longer.
They are also
had
filth.
So much fun.
So.
They are also also filth. And that's why units of 20.
Yeah.
The only problem I have with Repentia now is that they don't look as grim as the old ones.
No. Yeah.
The old Repentia had proper grim dark feel to them, and now they're just girls in hot pants and t-shirts with giant swords.
That's all right. All of mine are metal, John. Don't worry.
They're the good ones.
Yep.
New Codex as well, obviously. Same art.
Yeah.
Cool. Got my enthusiasm. On to the Gene Stealer cults. We got this guy, which is definitely not what happens when a Gene Stealer and what are they called? The floating brain guys.
Oh, Zoanthrope.
Zoanthrope. So what happens when a Gene Stealer and a Zoanthrope get too familiar?
Kill me.
Mine.
Someone else said this is the representation of a migraine in miniature form. So.
It doesn't have any psychic powers, though.
Yeah.
I like how it needs to have. I'm assuming that's not actually cabling. That is just the equivalent of like a small table to support the brain out the back.
The push-up bra for brains.
Yes. The Benefactus is the model.
The Benefactus, I'm not so sure on this guy because he doesn't feel very Gene Stealery. He looks more pure Tyranid in my opinion.
I see what you mean.
You see, he's got the carapace on the top of the brain like the Zoanthrope. It looks like Zoanthrope, then Gene Stealer cult below it.
Yeah,
which is it's odd, but it kind of works with him because he is a psyker and he's meant to be. What do they describe him as? A friggin' las cannon on legs.
Pretty much, yeah.
So this 22 pounds model is going to take your 45-pound tank and turn it inside out. Cool.
With the power of your mind.
Good bang for your buck if you're a Gene Stealer cultist.
Very true. You've already spent about £500 on your 500-point army anyway, so...
Swarm. It's all about the swarms.
Yeah.
But again, another battle force with them. The battle force looks pretty decent. The two vehicles in there are solid from what I've heard.
Yeah, I think that's much better than the Sisters one.
The Sisters one felt very much like the last Space Marine one when they brought all the jetpacks out, or the jump packs out, and it was just them in a box, and it was like, cool.
Yeah, but Seraphim are double hard. Those tanks won't last long once the Seraphim get in there. They just arrive and just go, melta bombs, click, click, slap, bye, and then just leave. And they're away.
Along with Battle Force, we also get a combat patrol as well for them. Again, some people are saying this is all right. Some people are saying this is a bit lesser than
I think it's a bit of a
one.
downgrade myself. I know
remember
a lot of people think
previous.
The last one was very, very, very cost effective.
Yeah.
Whereas this doesn't have that. I mean, we're just talking about the swarm feel. I don't think you necessarily... You get a lot more of the specialist stuff in this.
Yeah.
So it's probably good as an addition to what you already have.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sure about it as a starting point for cults because I don't think it hammers home the same vibe tactically as the cults have. But yeah,
I remember watching Chapter Master Valric, because I jumped in on his live stream when he was talking about these box sets, and he was looking at this going, oh, look at the little bikers, the little Gene Stealer cult bikers, and I went, don't you mean the Cadian Rough Riders? Because we don't get Cadian Rough Riders, we get Attillans.
Yeah,
so
that's true. Oh,
give those guys some Cadian helmets and put some spears on.
That'd be really
cool.
cool.
You go.
Yeah.
It'd be worth a try, because you shouldn't need to do much else to the models.
No, yeah.
No,
because
the bikes themselves are relatively they're just bikes with a load of stowage on them.
Just Imperial tech,
yeah.
And then
I'm gonna have to do
their outfits.
Fox, John.
Their outfits like that make sense as well, because they'd be outfitted differently from the regular troops. So as long as you just did the head swap and change their weapons, you'd be right. I think. Yeah.
I think head and arms are probably going to give you a good kit bash opportunity for that. Overall, I don't mind the Gene Stealer cults as a force anyway, but I do tend to agree that this isn't really the best combat patrol around. So, and more
it looks
good X art.
A bit wacky.
Yeah. He looks a bit. He does look a bit sort of He-Man villain about him.
Yeah,
a bit.
I think it's a stripy top and big goldfish bull head on him.
This world is mine.
Joke's on you, He-Man. I'm taking your cult. Anyway.
So, on to the actual good stuff. Well, the stuff that's more interesting, I think, in a manner. We have new Horus Heresy stuff coming, and the plastic cult Mechanicum stuff, which is, when I seen the reveals, I was quite happy with, because even though I'm not really into the Horus Heresy as a game, I really do like the miniatures that come out from it. And you'll see more of that in XLBS. Get the Archmagos Prime. Obviously, he's not as... I don't know. There's something cool about the 30k Mechanicum, because they look cleaner in a way. And I think there's a lot of people are looking at the 40k versus the 30k going, what's different here? I think it's because they're cleaner. They knew what they were doing back then.
Yeah.
I would have liked to see one more shot of this picture, because the first time I looked, I thought this is just the Lloyd shot. We're looking at the rear. It took me a long time to spot where the face was.
Yeah.
So a picture of the head from the opposite side that this is taken from. So you can actually see the difference, the separation there, because it really is, for something that's relatively clean, it's very busy up top.
Yep.
I thought it was just like a backpack,
but
no. It's
don't
like
you remember, Jerry?
hat.
This is Games Workshop's golden angle. It's the best angle to photograph your models.
Believe me, I'm just thankful that they decided not to put it on a red background.
Yeah,
that's normally what they do. What's the most dominant color on the model? Oh, well, then make the background the same color so nobody can see anything. Oh, thanks. But yeah, it is nice. I like his creepy little legs. Creepy.
Yeah. Creepy little legs.
Yes.
So we got a whole pile of stuff that I can't pronounce.
Ad
secularis. Yes.
It's called them TTs.
TTs. Tech thralls.
TTs. Yeah.
This is a bit sort of, it's a large unit, but obviously they've done like two torsos or three torsos the same.
Yeah.
And just maybe a few different head swaps that they can do. But they're tech thralls. They are practically machine slaves, so I mean, it doesn't really matter that much, does it? They look like they're fairly heavily equipped as well, sort of like miniature las cannons on them. I don't know about the cult Mechanicum.
Someone was saying, I think it was in the preview or if it was in the video, that they're slightly different from servitors, because servitors are like completely lobotomized and they have no sense of self or anything like that. Whereas the tech thralls have a little semblance of their personality about them and like independent thought. So they're still retrofitted by the tech priests after the fact anyway to just do work constantly. But they actually think a little bit for themselves, so they have some tactical awareness, which I think is quite good. They're obviously still a huge wave of things to just throw at your enemies, and hopefully the other stuff walks in behind and crushes it. Yep. But it's pretty cool sort of background to them as well. I think it's quite.
So
I would personally, I would go on, Jer.
I was just going to say, my question is that a bayonet, or is that solely to let them know whenever they're about to hit a wall?
like a Roomba.
Yeah. That's not a combat attachment. It's a measuring device just to keep them steered in the right direction.
I would hate to think that they would have to bayonet something to actually hit it with that gun, though. Stick it on and then shoot
Stick it in and then blam.
Yeah. What's your ballistic skill? 2. Oh.
It goes up to 6 when in melee.
Oh, dear me, my.
So, a few other things as well. Then we have some biggish robots, which the Thalax cohort, I really like these.
So nice.
I really like these. They're just, I don't know how to describe them. It's like the Mechanicus stuff ever since it came into 40K as a full faction. Like every time they have like the big robots and stuff like that, I like the blank facedness of them.
Mm-hmm.
Which it feels very weird to me because I would have always thought the Mechanicus would be sort of, or the Mechanicum as well, would be sort of humanizing. Mechanical. Yeah. Rather than just making these things look so otherworldly, I guess. I'm not so sure about that. But we have these, and then we have the Castellax, which are the next ones. I can remember how to pronounce those. It's great. These are my favorite. And it's not just because they're big and brutish. It's also because they're angry.
Yes. It's a tiny little angry servitor skull in the middle.
Yes.
Don't be fooled. This isn't a head. Don't shoot up there. Aim for this. Aim for the brainstem and take them down for good. If you shoot this,
I like the way they've done
they're still at
sort of saw blades.
Yeah. With the big
saw blades are kind of weird. That offset axle that they run on the inside of the wheel, which is kind of fun.
It's like a mechanical pizza cutter coming for you.
Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, it also has a similar profile / torso shape to the Horus Heresy Dreadnought. Whatever it's called.
Yeah, the Contemptors. Yep. Yeah.
Contemptor. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Which shows, here's the Contemptor that we built for the Space Marines. And then we went,
here's
that's not a bad idea.
Version.
We've just taken that squishy human out.
Yeah.
Chuck that away. There's so much more room for activities if we get rid of that and just keep it just a brain on a stem on a stick.
Yeah.
And away you go.
I love that there's clearly like the pilot drone or the pilot mind in the center, and then the gun is controlled by a separate, because you can see there's another servo skull at the top. There's probably like another mind in that as well. Yeah.
Everybody gets a brain. It's probably one in each hand as well.
Probably. You can't have these things being too AI.
No.
That's very true.
They don't want AI, so.
Yeah.
Nobody wants that again.
The faction every Warren hates.
Oh my lord.
Oh.
Yeah. It's
the Thanatar.
I love they've been putting more ammo feeds onto stuff lately.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like workshops designers have gotten very confident with ammo feeds.
Yeah. One of the things they talked about,
card, they can just copy and paste it. It's fine.
Yeah. One of the things they talked about with, I think it was especially the larger stuff, so things that we've seen like the Castellax and the Thanatar, is that with the resin models, they could have them in lots in slightly more dynamic poses and stuff, because obviously it's resin. Whereas with this, with they're doing it as plastic kit, they had to try and rework it. But that has been the trade-off, is that they've been able to do lots of really intricate stuff with things like the plasma cannon on the back. So all of those things move. You can have them open or closed.
Yeah.
So you can have, so you can glue them in place or you can close them or etc. Whatever, do what you want. But it means you can have like a mortar firing or whatever you want to do with it, and have some fun. And obviously, I'd hope that means that the posability is pretty good on these, in terms of their joints. Fingers crossed.
To look at the likes of the knights that they transferred from Forge World over to plastic, like they did a really good job on the posability of those. Like I built the Castellan, the one with the twin mega bolter.
Yes.
Right, yeah.
That ammo feed is beautiful because it's hinged. It comes in segments, and then once you've posed the arm, you can then glue it all solid up, and it
nice.
Really works nice. Very posable.
I like the off-center head. Don't know what it is about. Don't need to worry about it being slap bang in the center.
It's very battle tacky offset head.
That's what I'm thinking.
Offset
of,
head cockpit.
Yes. Yeah. Cockpit to one side, so you can put the biggest gun you can on its shoulder, and away you go.
That's also very retro ray gun feel to it as well. That dome quality is perfect for that.
I just need a little fin. He could be a rocketeer.
Yeah. And then finally, we have the transport. I'm not calling it a conveyor because that's just semantics. It's a transport. I mean, what can I say? I can't say anything about it. It's a giant armored box on tracks.
It does have a
screaming
Art Deco feel to the front of it as well. It's like Charles Rennie Mackintosh has decided to go full futuristic.
It's very, very 30s. New York 30s, 20s, 30s theater kind of thing going on there. But I mean that's the way they were when that hull at least was in Forge World as well. Like they went really heavy on that sort of stylistic approach.
Yeah.
Oh, I like it.
It's nice. I think they did a good job on this stuff for the Mechanicum. Very cool.
It's nice to see tracks that make sense.
Yeah. I've not seen those in a while.
Yeah.
Looking at you, Lehman Russ.
Yeah. Good times in a can. And of course,
we get them all in a battle group. Well, we don't get the big boy. We don't get the
Thanatar.
Thanatar.
Yeah, Thanatar and the Archmagos separately, but everything else in the box for you to more or less get started.
Just need that in a can of red spray, and you are done.
Pretty much, yeah.
The Heresy battle group boxes are good because they're not giving you things that you're not going to want multiples of anyway. That's the thing. You're not getting commander figures that you're going to have like, oh crap, I've now got 6 of these lying around. I don't need them anymore, sort of thing.
Sure. Well, it's very fancy stuff. I think that's quite a lot of news. I think we're all done for the news. We shall have a little swish and then check out some crowdfunding.
Did you win one of our prizes? Find out on our prize claim center over at OnTableTop.com. Here we list all our previous prizes and those who have won. If you see your username, fill out the form to claim your prize. All prizes must be claimed within 30 days.
All right. We have some crowdfunding to check out before we sod off for another week. But before we get into the two big uns, we thought we'd give you a little preview because there'll be one coming when we're not here.
More or less.
When we're traveling back and trying to rebuild the studio again. Firelock are going to be launching their new Kickstarter.
Will it be bigger, better, and faster than before? Or maybe.
Hopefully none of those things. Faster would be good. But yeah, the Port Royal game that we have talked about previously is finally on its way, coming up on the 5th.
Yeah, so 5th of June will be the official launch date for Port Royal, which is the skirmish game from Firelock Games set in the Caribbean, in the town of Port Royal. After the earthquake of 1692, an earthquake has hit and it has effectively devastated the surrounding area. And that just means that clearly it is the perfect time for you to dive in with your various crews, warbands, and everything in between, to have some fun trying to gather as much loot as possible and plunder it for your own before you Scarpa and the government step in. So you'll be able to take on the role of pirates, privateers, Native Americans, the African Maroons, or the government forces, if you feel like being a brown nose, fighting over Port Royal, claiming territory, claiming booty, and everything else in between. It will have a full campaign mode, so you'll be able to dive in and have some fun with that. Think of it a little bit. I love how Mike referred to it. He said, think more time, but with pirates. Am I allowed to say that? I guess so.
Yes.
Yes.
I don't think Mike's alone in saying that. I think everybody's looked at this and went, yes.
More time with pirates. It can be played in a versus mode, so you can play it with a group of people and go through a full campaign if you want to. Although they've also said they're going to put in rules for it to be both co-op and solo as well.
Yeah.
So if you want to play through against just the game's innate AI, then you can. Although they've also said that it works perfectly for those people who want to dive in and run it as a game mastered experience.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to have somebody running it as a narrative and a story, you can do, and then everyone else just joins in and has fun with it, or just play it together and enjoy it that way. We also got a sneaky peeky at what's going to be in the boxed set, the core box for this. So you get the rulebook, obviously, alongside your dice and stuff. You're also then going to get your sailors, which is a hard plastic kit for you to customize as you see fit, alongside a characters and accessory kit, which also comes in hard plastic for you to tinker with as you see fit, creating new characters. Nice to see the casualty markers on there as well, and objectives and stuff. That's a lovely little bonus. I really like that one. If it's like any of the stuff from Firelock, though, I'd assume there's going to be a lot more popping up as part of the campaign. Previews and such will be coming up for that very, very soon. There's also tokens, that nice punchboard terrain that you saw there as well. So you'll be able to set up a sort of a scenario very quickly, straight out of the box set, alongside the game mat and stuff as well there too. And fingers crossed, maybe Firelock will come back and do some more terrain and stuff for this later on down the line. That'd be quite nice.
Yeah.
But if you've got a lot of stuff lying around from Blood and Plunder, then this is already a perfect game for you to dive into. You might even just want the rules, to be honest, and then grab all your crews and get ready to play. So
even if they don't do more terrain, the likes of things from the basement does some really nice Caribbean
they'll have you catered
stuff
for you
anyway. But yeah, I love the idea of a devastated town/island that they're playing in and around, because you can have your intact buildings, but if you fancy going full fighting through the ruins, then that's all very viable as well. And it's a nice compact game and access point for the Firelock rule system, if you will. Because obviously Blood and Plunder, Blood and Steel, Blood and Valor, Blood and Crowns. Yes. All exist.
I was trying to remember myself.
They're all the same core mechanics and then tweaked into specific periods or what have you. But then sometimes people look at it and go, well, I don't want 40, 50 models. The ship combat is great, but I don't have the room to do, sloop on sloop action or massive galleons. But being able to go, here's a little 3x3 or 2x2 section of that town. And you could realistically, I don't know if there's going to be a map of the town in there. There might be with Firelock, you can't, or there might just be nebulous, but you could potentially then go, well, here's our campaign map. I own this section, you own that section. You could draw your island map out, and then you can base your games on specific areas within it. Because then, a town is a town, whether it's ruined or not. Streets will stay in the same place. Buildings will be in the same place, and it means you could fight back and forth across them. So a possibly easier entry point for people to get into some piracy on the high lands.
Scotland now.
Yeah. Piracy. There's so many Scottish pirates. Yeah. But we're not getting into that right now. Anyway, keep your eye for that. 5th of June, because we won't be here next week to tell you it's coming, because we'll be at UKG.
Going,
Yes. Why would it end? Please end. All right. So, crowdfundings then that are running. We're going to kick things off with me. Thank you, me. You're welcome, me. What are we looking at? Well, we're looking at the Degenesis Clan Wars. Oh, that's good. I'm glad you brought that up. I was going to mention it if you didn't. No problem. Terror on Jerry. So, this is a board game, a skirmish board game from the guys at Six More Vodka. And cool mini or not, to bring the world of Primal Punk from Degenesis to a whole slew of people who maybe are unaware of it. So the RPG, which is all still available online for free, gratis, if you fancy it, was a fantastically robust piece of kit that really delved into the ongoing apocalypse of humanity in the 26th century. This, while tied to that and while progressing the story slightly, does not require you to have any knowledge of the RPG at all. Everything's in there. Instead, you and the other operatives will be characters being sent out to deal with the cockroach threat. The cockroach are like a Mad Max type of terrible villain. They're a gang, not actual big cockroaches. You'll be playing through a narrative skirmish game across essentially board sections. So you can think of it as like a board-based tabletop skirmish game. It's asymmetric as well, which is always fun. And it's a one versus many where your controller, the hostile villain, will be constantly trying to outwit the operatives as they play through. And the box itself is absolutely stuffed, filled with things. Because I was talking to Liam about this, who did a lot of the design work on it. I was like, what's the crack with the miniatures? Because the artwork for Degenesis is amazing. The miniature artwork, which I think is way down the bottom here, is absolutely superb. The sculpts just really capture those characters, which are sort of archetypical of the clan types. So the judges, the chroniclers, the battalions, whoever they happen to be. And the response was, yeah, Marco was talking to Paolo Parente one day, and Paolo went, why are these not figures? I was like, all right, well, that explains an awful lot then.
But if you're going to get somebody to do them, yeah.
Yeah, so he got a team on board and went, right, start working on this, you boy, yeah. So when you play, you're playing a specific character, and there are 28 missions in the core set. However, because it is a branching narrative, you may not see all of them on your first playthrough. Liam reckons you could potentially get to the end in 10 missions, depending on the choices you and the group make.
Why would you not do the side missions? Exactly.
If you go full side mission-y, could be up to like 18 will get you through. So you're never guaranteed to see all of the actual scenario missions coming up.
It's good for replay value
through.
Then.
Yes, yeah. Because it's a campaign system as well, you also have options with what your characters will do, how they will progress, what choices they make to get sort of skills and abilities can change over time as well. And it offers you then the option of going back and going, well, there are other operative heroes that you can come across. And if you don't do a side mission, you might completely miss them. So not knowing where they crop up adds some interest for replay as well, because wanting to go back and be a bit of a completionist and find all the bits and pieces that are hidden in there is always good, clean family fun. You can see the map tiles here. They're 2 themed, so double-sided, and then all tessellate into a variety of ways, which means even though it is technically set with an amount of missions in the box, there's a real opportunity for creative types to start making their own missions and exploring the world a bit further.
Like the sound of that, yeah.
Yeah. Also quite like these. You've got a little folding card sleeve sort of thing where between games, everything gets folded back in. So when you come to set up, you just take that out, and that's all the equipment cards and abilities and stuff are kept for each character in that little sleeve. So your operative then just goes, well, here's where I'm at. Here's how I'm going to play. I also like their sort of abilities are also wounds to a certain extent. So if you take damage, you have to flip a card, so you no longer have access to that ability, but you choose which one, which means you've got a bit of player agency in there to go, well, I think as a group for the scenario we're doing, I can afford not to have X for this game. And then the hostile just sits there and chuckles behind his GM screen because he knows that he's going to introduce something to you later on, which will cause you no end of problems. So
you did have to lockpick your way out of that room.
Yeah, that sort of thing. You can ignore that. As soon as Coolman are not fixed post to Northern Ireland, I will be backing this. I was sitting here yesterday, but they've screwed us, John. Somebody
as
called me.
they mostly do.
Well, for some reason, they took us out of the UK and require us to add a EU VAT number, which we don't have because we're not in the EU.
Wow.
So
The thing that I really liked about the mission structure and the way that it played out from reading this was, and in a lot of times with one versus many game, you tend to have that thing of, well, the one is just there to make sure that everybody else dies and you don't complete your mission. But I really like that in this.
Yeah.
Whilst obviously the players have their own objectives and they'll be trying to do lots of different things with both bonus objectives and the core ones. The hostile also has a bonus thing that they're trying to do. So they're not just trying to eliminate the players and stop them from completing the objective. They're also trying to, I think one of the examples is drag corpses to particular places or like stop the characters from doing something within 7 turns and things like that. So it seems like a really good balancing act so that so it's more of a storytelling experience, which again leads back into the fact that this originally was a role-playing game and sort of feeds into that, which I think is a really nice bonus for players and something maybe a little bit different from what you've typically dived into as a big game like this. So
So, I mean, the pledges come in two flavors. One is the give me everything, and the other one is the core set, and then you can add extra bits in. So there is 3-dimensional terrain to replace the cardboard stuff and things like that. There's a Fureback.
Has Justin seen this yet? Because I'm fairly sure Justin would back
that is the one he wanted to play whenever we play RPG. Yeah. I don't think he has seen it yet. Everybody loves Pluso, but the figures themselves are cracking. There are daily unlocks. There are stretch goals also coming. There's also something else which I was told, and I can't remember when it goes live, so I can't tell you. But I know something you don't know.
So
if you are a
special.
if you are a fan, check this. If when you're here, there's not people going songs and dance and whistlings all over the internet, then it'll be happening on Saturday. So check it on Saturday. But yeah, so here you can see some of the reinforcements. So additional types that you can come across, and there's also a couple of different flavors of enemy as well within the game. So you've got your regular cockroach scumbags, but then there's also a champion level that are essentially broadly the equivalent of your operatives in power. So the hostile can, throw interesting things into the mix in certain scenarios as well. But yeah, as a product as a whole, Sixmore Vodka have a very high bar for quality that they do not like to drop below ever. And from what I've seen, they haven't as far as production, components or design go, and this has been carried across into the miniature side of things massively as well. So it's all good in the hood, and hopefully this will introduce a whole host of people to the Primal Punk world of Degenesis that they haven't seen. There's the Hostile's little dashboard where he gets to see things. So don't worry about that.
It's all very stylized, and I love that. It's got that kind of slightly minimal feel to it. Which is very arty and very much enjoyable. Yeah, it's kind of like gets out your way and lets you just play kind of thing.
It's 100% a labor of love when it comes to the design aesthetic behind it, and the sky's gone red. And so yeah, I'm really, really excited to see where this goes from here. I'm also really excited to see that thing happening either tomorrow or but yeah, already massively funded. Relatively short campaign, though, finishes on 7th of June, I believe, if memory serves. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Stay away from them.
It's got about 14 days left when you're seeing this.
So this was quite cute. Liam was saying that they originally designed this with 2 dogs, and then the sculptor was going, 4 dogs would look better. What do you think? And they went, yes. Yes. Do that for the Beastmaster.
Give me more.
So yeah, the miniatures look absolutely superb, and you can see there,
terrifying and hard to kill.
There's a whole host of miniature pages further down as well, where it gets some really nice close-up shots because the level of detail on these is superb.
You know what this is reminding me of?
Yes,
obviously Sixmore Vodka have done their own thing incredibly original, unique, etc.
Mhm.
But if you're somebody who back in the day was playing something like Dark Age, this is like
Yes.
a game for you to dive into. It has such a like similar aesthetic in a lot of the presentation, but obviously with their own primal punk vibe, as you say.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's important to remember that this isn't post-apocalyptic. The apocalypse is still going. Humanity's just having to live with that. And that's why you're there, and this is how you've all been drafted together. Currently, there are 4 Let's Plays, with a 5th that has been filmed, and they're hoping to get done and dusted and out there. So if you want to see how the game's played, Liam is playing the hostile and throwing some of the other designers and team members into the grinder. So they're all up on the Six More Vodka YouTubes. They're also, I believe, linked at the bottom of this page somewhere.
Yeah, there's loads of playthroughs from a bunch of different creators as well. So if you're interested, and I think the rulebook and some of the mission booklet are available to just look through. So
I think it's one mission possibly has been chucked out there. But yeah,
so you can go and get a look at it and see whether or not you like the mechanics, which I believe are meant to be quite streamlined and easy. So
yeah, well, the RPG worked on a D6 system where you were rolling 6s for successes, so dice pool. Here it's slightly different in that you've got levels of die which you can choose between. So white are safe. There are no botches on white, but there are a lot of blanks and low success numbers, 1s and 2s. Black is a bit more frisky. Red, biggest chance of success, biggest chance of
high risk, high reward.
Failure. Yes, 100%. So, so that's an interesting little mechanic where you're not having to particularly worry too much. It comes down to you and what you think you can actually get away with. But yeah. So, yeah, definitely worth a look if you want to explore a apocalyptic humanity in the future and see where things go. The game itself looks really, really fun, and the setting is absolutely amazeballs, as I believe they say in France. So,
I really misread that thing about botching then.
Did you?
Yes, I read it entirely differently. Doesn't matter.
Okay. I'm not going to press you into that. But yeah, so that is the most important one. As soon as Coleman or not fix my postage, I'll be in there like a hairy, scary bear. But we have one more to look at before we go. And that's a bit more sedate.
Yeah.
Still arty.
So we've talked about the stuff that Dave Taylor's been working on over the last couple of years. He's been running The Art of series of books where he talks to both individual artists, but also collectives. And each of the books is dedicated to them or the group, and they talk about their processes, what inspires them. Sometimes it's got sort of tutorials and things in there as well. And each of these books is a massively good deep dive into each of the individuals, and a fantastic kind of like coffee table book to inspire you. A lot of them are on very different subjects. So some of them might be on fine detail work. Some might be on dioramas, bases, high-end competition painting. A lot of it, some of it has been sort of like on army painting and all that kind of stuff as well. We talked in the past to Tommy Soul on the XLBS about his painting philosophy and the way that he views things. And he has a book in this series where he talks effectively about that, but in much more depth. And again, that sort of has carried through into all of the books in this series. The current campaign is for volumes 10 through to 12. So there's 3 new books. These ones focus on the work of Roman Lepat, Sam Lenz, and Joshua Lai. Got to get the name right. Each of them are phenomenal artists, no bones about it, in their own right. And each of the books, again, sort of focuses in on their particular thought processes and the way that they go through bringing their miniatures to life. Again, some of these are based on sort of diorama stuff. A lot of it is on basing. I think some of the stuff is also on like as I say, like inspiration and trying to find what drives you to dive into a particular method of painting and stuff. As I say, they've been going for a very long time. They're available in both digital and physical mediums. I think if you were going to dive in and get one of these, I think having a physical book would be gorgeous. Sit that on your shelf or have it on your coffee table, as I was saying, and maybe read through it over a cup of tea or a cup of coffee or whatever, and then go right to the painting table to try and recreate this.
I have Tommy Soul's book, and it's a fantastic read and a fantastic reference. Every time I want to look at something, I'm just going to open this for half an hour.
Yeah, I think it's one of the things that I think Dave and the people and the artists he's worked with has been really trying to push, is that these aren't necessarily like tutorial books. They're not like a step-by-step, here's how to make this look like my work. It's very much a kind of almost like a biography of the artist and their methods and the way that they sort of
it's a kind of a psychology book.
Yeah.
In a way, it's you're trying to figure out the processes rather than the method. You're looking at how the artist is translating something in their head to
that's a good way of putting
to the piece they're working on, rather than them telling you step 1 is this color, step 2 is this color.
Yeah, and that leads into why I suppose there have now been, well, there will be now 12 of these volumes, because clearly people enjoy them. The Kickstarter was well funded, and while this Kickstarter allows you to pick up the 3 books that we've just discussed, you are also still able to get your hands on all of the previous volumes. Depending on where you're coming from, if you're in the US or over in Europe, etc., you can get them from different places. So I think Dave Taylor sells them in the US via his website. But if you're over in the UK or Europe, you're more likely to get them from Warlord, who stock these as well. So you've got plenty of chances to dive in and get your hands on these. So if you have a particular artist that you've enjoyed watching sort of progress and develop their skills through the likes of Instagram or whatever, or ArtStation, maybe come and see if they've done some work with Dave and turned their philosophy into a book. These are really great. Definitely worth.
I also like the fact it's not copy and paste. He didn't do the first book and it was like artist style, tutorial, blah, whatever. And then every book after that is just a different artist doing the same thing. You can see there that Joshua is going about building techniques and planning and design and atmosphere, whereas Sam is more into basing and two-dimensional work, which looked really good with the Death Dealer, the Frank Frazetta Death Dealer miniature in the middle of the framed artwork as well. And then Romans is more of a inner artist character sort of study and development, which is cool. Also, I really like his zombie apocalypse on that bridge, which we seen a year or 2 years ago, and I can't remember why it cropped up, but it was one of the most spectacular dioramas I have ever seen in my life. And there was a obviously in the little intro video there's one sort of picture of it as it sort of pans past, but there are multiple pictures online of it, and presumably in this book there will be several of them, and every angle you see something else, from the guys on the car shooting down at the hordes that are coming along to people trying to scale the bridge uprights to get away from them. But just that diorama is so densely packed, but every single millimeter of it has got something unique. It's not just dry brush 50 zombies and stick them around it, we'll not worry about it, from clown zombies to little girls with balloons trying to escape, or people being pushed away knowing that they're going to end up being bit. Really does the whole, tells a story in the diorama as well, which is sweet to the beat. It's fascinating. I really want to get them all. Books.
Maybe you have to chat with Dave, see what he says. So
is he going to give me more house to put more books in? Stacked up. I'm going to end up doing that whole books for chairs thing, aren't I? I just sit on a stack of hardbacks, try not to slide off.
I'll have the links down below, by the way, to the Dave Taylor page where he talks about where you can get them and get your hands on separate books as well. So if you're interested in one of the other artists that was mentioned, you'll have some links to go and find out what they've been doing.
Some spanking gorgeous stuff there. And also fortnight left on that one as well. Wow. Everything finishes in a fortnight. We'll be back in a fortnight, because that's us for this week, and UKG next week. So if you want to, why not come across and join us on Sunday for XLBS? It'll be this trio of terrific people again, because all the rest see me coming and ran.
We won't be in grey.
We won't be in grey. No, we'll change. We'll all be in olive drab instead for novelty value. We'll be having a bit of a witter about our hobby and what we're getting up to. And weirdly, grey and olive drab may feature in our topic as well. So, yes. So join us over on tabletop.com. You can have a 30-day trial if you're not already a cultist. Otherwise, we'll see you at UKGE next week, and we'll be back in a fortnight. Till then, have a great week of gaming. Bye.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.